15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Maggie and Perloff on the Infinity Sports Network.
Apologies to our fans in Oregon this morning because somehow you're the number one seed in the college football playoff, yet you have the hardest road to actually win a title, and that's just one of the takeaways from the 12-team college football bracket. Good morning, Maggie, Perloff.
Whoa.
Lots to do this morning.
Why? It's
We're
definitely,
overloaded.
okay, I understand that they have a worse road than Penn State, who they beat. But,
By a lot.
but at the end of the day, aren't they still have to beat the same teams to get out of this bad boy. The question, they have the hardest road to the Final Four, maybe, but do they have the hardest road overall? I'm not worried about that.
Yes, they do. And, well, here's the other part of it. It's not just that, but you're the only undefeated team here. You beat Penn State in the Big Ten championship game. You did all the things that you were asked to do, and you did them brilliantly. And, by the way, while the defense wasn't that great against Penn State, your offense probably put together the best game of the season. So your reward for that is that you have the hardest road. What's the number one seed even for anymore? And when I say hardest road, I just mean that this is the way that it shakes out. And by the way, good morning to everybody if I didn't say that again. So let's get to the college football playoff bracket. And again, we know there's a lot of other things happening today. Juan Soto signs. We'll get to all the NFL stuff. All of it's happening. But I want to pause on Oregon because I feel like they deserve our attention here today. They get the number one seed, and I'm trying to find my bracket here, and all of a sudden it just disappeared on me.
So they play the winner of Clemson against number 5, Texas, number 12 seed.
Okay, so Clemson, who, walk off...
Yeah, but first of all,
win against SMU. You're telling me, no, I'm sorry. Oregon plays the winner Perloff of Ohio State and Tennessee. Oregon play the winner of Ohio State and Tennessee. That's the bracket. I knew that didn't sound right. Ohio State and Tennessee. That's the winner they would play. And that is crazy. You stand here on a soapbox and you stump for the SEC and you stump for Alabama more than anybody. So to have to play one of the heavy hitters in the Big Ten who you beat by a point in your own place, or to face Tennessee in that vaunted SEC, how is that the one seed? How is that fair? How does that make sense for a team that actually survived this gauntlet of a season undefeated?
Right, but Penn State gets possibly SMU and Boise State, right?
Yes. Penn State is on the flip side of this.
What's
Penn
the
State
difference?
avoided everyone.
So Penn State just loses later on to a top 10 team instead of early on to a top 10 team. Eventually, you're going to have to beat all these teams.
No, that's not true because Penn State is on the separate side of the bracket. So you have Ohio State, Oregon, Texas, and Tennessee all on one side of a bracket, and then Indiana, Notre Dame, Boise, and yes, Georgia, but maybe one of the most vulnerable, beatable Georgia teams that we've seen over the last half a decade.
But the point is, Penn State will have to play a top 10 team in the Final Four at least. So,
well, you'd freaking hope so.
So that's their loss.
But they're
so
not
they get
the number
further,
one
but
seed.
they lose.
But they're not the number one seed.
Right.
So they should get. There should be something that rewards the number one seed. That's how it works in every other sport when you do this type of playoff format and bracket. Right. Something on paper. Penn State doesn't deserve to be rewarded. That's the bottom line. And yet they did because they're going to play SMU in the first round and they're probably going to be a healthy favorite. And then they get a bye. And then they get to the next round, they're going to play Boise State. And they're probably going to be a favorite in that game too. So, to me, I just feel for our fans in Oregon. I know we're on there. I know this is a big deal. For them to go undefeated and get the number one seed, and your air quotes reward is you wait for the winner of Ohio State and Tennessee.
Okay.
How does that make sense?
No. And they'll change this next year for sure. But
next year could be a totally different team. This is Oregon's chance right now. And it's not like Oregon has all these national championships that they're sitting on a mountain of. This is not Nick Saban's Alabama team.
But let me ask you a question, though. Does it actually, at the end of the day, to get to win it all, they're going to have to beat Ohio State. They're going to have to beat probably Georgia. So what's the difference when they play them? Like, they're going to have to knock out. The odds are no matter what the bracket fell, you're going to probably see Oregon, Ohio State, Georgia, and maybe Texas.
Okay, but you might face one of those on the way. Now you're guaranteed to probably face two of those, unless you really think Texas is vulnerable against Clemson.
Yeah, I mean,
Texas and
Texas
Clemson is the 5-12
obviously not
seed.
great.
They're not, but they still have a better path. They have a better road. They play Clemson, and then the winner of that plays Arizona State. And I know Arizona State has come on recently, and this has been an amazing turnaround for a team that was picked last in the Big 12 to now be here as the 4th seed with a bye. But come on.
I'm not worried about Oregon here. They're going to have to beat Ohio State. We all knew that this rematch was coming at some point. So
but maybe in a semifinal.
But what's the difference?
Not the quarterfinal.
What's the difference? Eventually, they're going to have to do it anyway, and they're probably going to face Georgia, I would imagine, at some point.
We'll see.
Or
I mean, Georgia now.
If they don't get Georgia, then they're going to steamroll somebody, because who else in this bracket is scaring Oregon? To me, there's two teams, Ohio State and Georgia, and maybe if you squint, Texas. Other than that, they're going to be heavy, heavy favorites over everybody.
Okay, but Ohio State and Texas are both on their side of the bracket. So.
Well, Texas, though, I put as a little bit on the outside. Like, Texas is good, not great.
Don't you think this is just not what you sign up for when you get a number 1 seed, though?
Totally. No, this system is stupid.
The committee, to sit up there, and we got lots of problems with the committee, and I don't envy their job, but to be honest, like, they probably make some extra money for being part of this committee, and they have almost zero accountability. Ward Manuel, the athletic director for Michigan, stands up there and just contradicts himself week after week after week, and there's no recourse. There's no retribution. There's nothing we can do about it except sit there and listen to him yammer on. So So how
did the committee mess this up, though? Because this was structural. That had nothing to do with the committee.
No, because what they said is their job is to rank 1 through 25 on like a blank sheet of paper, and they don't think at all about where the positions are in the bracket. And I think that's BS for the number 1 seed. Because think about it, if you had actually put this out on paper, you're like, geez, Oregon really survived this year that no one else could survive being undefeated. They did it. And it's not like they played nobody. They did play Ohio State. Who
lost to Michigan. But yeah.
Well, they lost in like the biggest rivalry game. But
they're definitely not ideal right now.
Okay, but
they're not peaking, you might say.
Well, I don't know. They also beat Indiana, which the committee thought extremely highly of through this season.
They just went scoreless at home against a 500 team in the second half.
Okay, but this committee loved the Hoosiers, and they beat the Hoosiers.
What are they supposed to? Why did the committee mess this up, though? I'm not sure I totally understand.
I think that they should be thinking about where teams fall on the bracket in terms of how you're seen. Don't just rank 1 through 25 and then say, all right, our job here is done. It's not done. Because you need to see who is actually playing each other in these first-round matchups to make sure that the number 1 overall seed doesn't have to face the winner of Ohio State and Tennessee. Like, that's just does not seem fair to me.
So what would they have done then? I'm not sure. Like, they should move Ohio State down or up to avoid them? Or 7 was Notre Dame. That, I think, the same kind of thing. That's a tough team. You kind of want to engineer
Notre
it.
Dame did what?
Well, I mean,
they beat nobody.
Regardless, like, what was the committee supposed to do here? I'm not totally sure.
I think they have to understand that between 7, 8, 9, 10, these are fluid, and you can move around chess pieces on the chessboard here. Why does Notre Dame have to be 7? Like, they didn't play in a conference championship game. They will never play in a conference championship game. Like, why couldn't you? I understand Texas. Texas lost the SEC championship game. So Georgia gets the 2 seed because they won in overtime. And then Texas would, because everyone loves the SEC. And the SEC is the big thing and their strength of schedule.
Obviously not, but go ahead.
Well, but they got the highest at-large bid.
They got 3 teams in.
Well,
they got 3 teams in.
But Texas had to be 5. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because the SEC.
So 5 is good. You're good with Texas. Then 6.
Did 6 have to be Penn State? I get it. You lost the Big Ten title game. You shouldn't get penalized a lot for that. And they looked fine. They still lost by 8 points.
So you want to? So I just totally. The team you're afraid of is Ohio State. You want to move them around so they don't come into the second round against Oregon.
I also think Tennessee is really good, and everyone who loves the SEC should be telling me how awesome Tennessee is with their defense.
Well, I feel like if Penn State was in that spot where Tennessee is, the same issue would exist, where Oregon's still getting a way harder draw. I don't know. I guess Ohio State shouldn't really scare Oregon. They look bad right now.
What happened in the first game? That was
I
Oregon
understand.
at home, and if not for a couple boneheaded plays by Ohio State, they lose that game. So what's going to happen on a neutral field? See, I think it just boils down to this. Are you with me or against me that Oregon got hosed here? That's too much silence, you guys. You're not right on this. You're not right on this.
I thought that was a rhetorical question. I am against you. Be clear.
Oh, come on.
I'm very against you.
Well, I mean,
Wait,
yeah, but
Perloff,
this is
are you against me?
Yeah, because it's a preseason argument. Like, where were you in July? You didn't say anything then.
They got through the season undefeated.
Well, this structure was set. I don't even know when it was set. Sometime over the offseason, they decided this format. There's nothing they could have done now.
No,
I mean,
the at-large bids you can move around as to their discretion.
Sure,
Who's calling them on anything?
But
We
like,
don't even understand half their processes.
But
it didn't matter. Like anybody in here, this 7, 8, 9 is totally. All those teams are really good. I don't think there was any salvaging. Once the system was set, they were screwed.
What's the problem? With the problem, Maggie, is that they already set the bracket, or rather the rankings. They do this every week, so we're tracking them. So you can't go into the final week after Oregon has finally won and they're undefeated and they're number one and say, all right, well, now we got to jigsaw this thing and fix the matchup so that it looks better for Oregon. You can't do that at that point. You've already seen Ohio State be ranked behind Indiana after they lost to Michigan. That's already done. They already said that any team that's not playing, they can't move up. They can't do anything about that. So once these teams are all set up, that's just the way it is.
Okay. That's an amazing argument, except for the fact that it was a legitimate discussion whether Alabama would get in over SMU up until the final horn. And if you're saying, oh, well, they can't pick and choose and they can't play favorites and they can't, redesign the criteria on the fly, then Alabama was never a thought.
But that's different because SMU was playing. Now, we can argue whether or not they should have judged that game, and I think that they should not have judged that game harshly. And in the end, they didn't.
ACC championship.
Right. In the end, they didn't. SMU got in. But that's different than when you're talking about Notre Dame, Ohio State, Tennessee, Indiana, all teams that did not play, and saying find a way to get Ohio State out of this Oregon matchup. Well, Ohio State was already ranked behind Notre Dame. They already were ranked behind Penn State. So you can't then say, all right, well, now that it looks like Oregon has a tough road, we're going to mix up the bracket to help Oregon.
They can do whatever they want. They can do whatever they want.
It's not right, though.
So it's less right to just do that with no thought or regard for the number one seed when you could actually shuffle out large bids. So Oregon gets a harder road, even though they're the team that's undefeated.
I just feel like at a certain point you have to go with the teams as they are playing. Like Perloff mentioned, Ohio State is not playing well. They should lose to Michigan and just nothing happened to them. We just assume they're still a top 3 or 4 team. Like, what are we supposed to do with these teams? Tennessee lose to Arkansas. It's like, oh, well, I mean, what do we do? Like, I guess they're still, like, you have to move these teams somewhere. And, like, Oregon got a bad shake. To me, it's more of an issue with the actual format than it is, like, what the committee did.
I agree with you. Like, I think, Maggie, you're missing the point. The problem is they don't reseed. I mean, because basically – once you get into that Big 12 and ACC title winner, then you're on an easy path. The problem is the number one seed by definition is going to get the very strong at large bids. So, and honestly, I do disagree. Like Notre Dame, Tennessee, Ohio State, Tennessee, like they scare you. They have a young quarterback and they can't do anything on offense. Like Josh Heupel's offense has disappeared for the most part. I just think that it's totally like, they're going to reseed next year. We all know it. Like there's two things are going to change. Like the SEC is going to be on a mission this offseason to get more teams in.
Yeah, they got 3 in. The Big Ten got 4 in.
Yeah, and the ACC basically got 3 because I count Notre Dame beating all the UVAs of the world as an ACC team. So that'll change, and they're definitely going to reseed next year. This is bad. It's totally structural. But I think if you were really going to call this out, you should have called it out in the summer, not now. They're not going to, jury rig this to get Ohio State out of Oregon's path. That would make no sense.
I thought that the number one seed was going to actually mean something, and nobody knew. I couldn't call this out preseason because I didn't know there'd be one undefeated team left standing. And the fact that team so going away deserved the number one overall seed and gets no benefit from it whatsoever. 855-212-4227.
Sorry, I just want to really make this clear. So you think that Oregon, they're not playing Texas, which will be harder than playing Ohio State, Tennessee.
They would play Texas. They're on the same side of the
I'm talking about the quarterfinal matchup.
Yeah, that
I
would
guess
be
that's
a
the issue, right? Is that they have this quarterfinal matchup against Tennessee and Ohio State. So it's not Texas. It's not. I mean, it's either Texas, Notre Dame, Penn State, or those are the teams, right? Like you're saying, Ohio State's the hardest out of those teams.
I'm just going off of what I saw when they played each other earlier this season. I think that's going to be really tough.
Right.
And people love Ohio State. I know that they lost to Michigan. I understand that, but I think that Ohio State was basically the second team in the country up until 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Ohio State is if Chip Kelly's still up in that booth, that's going to be hard to get through Tennessee because this is, he's running a 2007 offense against a modern team. So you might not even see Ohio State.
Okay, other part of this, and Oregon fans, I feel like have to be on my side, although maybe you're just happy that you got in, you're the number one seed, so you're just riding the cool waves of this awesome season at 855-212-4227. Can we finally put to rest the Alabama-SMU debate?
No, that is obviously... I'm not saying that they got it right with Alabama SMU, but there's definitely a glaring problem with this final 12 teams. Like
that Alabama's not in it?
Just generally this is not the best 12 teams in the country. I don't think anybody looks at this field and say, wow, they got the 12 best teams. So I think they made the right call with Alabama SMU, but there probably will be change after this. Like our buddy Dan Wetzel called for them, they got to get rid of the week-to-week ratings because they corner themselves in. So that's
They're
a problem.
Not
I don't
give
think
that
gonna,
up because that's a big part of the television component.
But generally, this looks wrong, and Alabama and the SEC promised to unschedule all their games coming up. That was I wonder if that's an idle threat, but I don't know.
They're talking about the non-conference. So basically, Alabama doesn't get in because, to be honest, I'll skewer the committee on a lot of things. One thing they said that they held true to, which is if you play in your conference championship game and you lose, that's not going to count as such a knock against you. So nobody who lost in their conference championship games, whether it be Texas, whether it be who else? SMU and Penn State, nobody dropped more than 2 spots. So they were very true to that. They kept their word on that. And when SMU mounted their comeback against Clemson in the fourth quarter, Perloff, and they made that a game, and Clemson needed a 56-yard field goal from a redshirt freshman to win. There was no way they should have knocked off SMU and knocked them out of the bracket because SMU, losing on a last-second field goal, is not a reason to say your season is completely irrelevant now.
Right. I just think that people are going to come away from this bracket and wonder about the scheduling disparity. It's a real problem for college football. Like you look at, I was pulling up Tennessee's schedule. Like their preseason was Chattanooga, NC State, Kent State.
Non-conference.
The non-conference. Generally, I think that people are going to wonder also with these big conferences, there's such a disparity within the conference, like Indiana. So I wonder, the long-lasting implication of this particular field is going to be strength of schedule. I think that's a huge issue. Ward Manuel said we care about it. Nick Saban said you're an idiot. You obviously didn't care about it. So, and who are people going to listen to?
That was a paraphrase.
Oh my God, he just totally went off. The Alabama group just went nuts on this committee.
I just think it's funny that for the SEC, because the commissioner of the SEC said this and Nick Saban said it, the first place they went to was well, screw it. We're not going to have a non-conference schedule that's tough. It's who was tough? Alabama played Mercer the second to last game of the season, or third to last game. You beat them by 1 million. What, going to Wisconsin?
Well, they were talking about their future schedules they do have some tough matchups coming up in the next 4 years. I would totally get rid of them. I mean, they should. They better.
But the non-conference isn't what buried them.
But not this year.
It was losing to Vanderbilt and losing to Oklahoma that buried them.
Right, but they're saying we have no padding because we're in the ridiculous SEC, so we can definitely not risk losing an early season game to, I don't know, whatever. I don't even know who's good anymore. Ohio State or Michigan or anybody.
But how rare is that?
Also, if you would have played one of those teams and won, maybe you'd be in this bracket.
Yeah,
How about that?
You could have a better
Instead
win.
of saying we beat Wisconsin.
Yeah. Oh, Miami's big wins over Florida?
No,
Jeez.
but see, that's
what
the
are you
thing.
talking about?
Florida's not a bad team. The end of the season was better than the beginning. But here's the thing. I felt like that was a really odd place to go. It's here's our threat. Our threat's going to be, you better watch out for our non-conference schedule. It's have you guys been watching Michigan? They don't play anybody. Other teams have already figured this hack out.
Yeah.
So
the SEC has figured this hack out. They've been doing it.
It's I'm sorry, that's your takeaway?
So as Alabama
You're not going to pay $1 million for someone to come into your stadium so you can beat the crap out of them? That's the takeaway?
Well, Alabama has a home and home with Ohio State coming up. They have at Notre Dame in 2029. I would, they have home and home with Notre Dame. Like, yeah, I mean, I think at a certain point, I understand what you're saying. It didn't happen this year, but in general, yeah, you have to be really afraid of that early season loss. I would totally count about it.
It doesn't matter anymore, though. See, I think there's more cushion with that early season loss than there's ever been.
But you can't, it's just so hard to run the table in the SEC. I think that they can't afford that early season loss. So if they're smart, they should totally get rid of those games. Like, why would they keep them?
I mean, I guess then pay to get out of them.
I don't even think they have to pay to get out of them. I heard them talking about like the conference can easily ditch all those games.
Then do it. Like
I think they will.
This is the thing. Like, to me, what doomed Alabama is they lost horribly to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Period. And so no playing, there wasn't going to, the non-conference didn't mean anything for them this year. In fact, It helped them get right in some ways because they got to beat up on this Mercer team late in the season.
Which they always have that game. But that being said, like if you're Alabama, you just said Michigan had a hack, like do not schedule anyone. You really, losses matter. That's a huge number in this deal. Wins do not matter.
But didn't they realize that with this 12-team playoff, you've basically sacrificed the beginning of the season for the end of it? And the beginning of the season for college football is never like what it's about anyway. So this is what happens anytime you expand a playoff. The regular season does start to matter a little bit less. And the non-conference is going to matter even a little bit less than that.
Yeah, and conference championship games matter just a little bit less. Everything matters, and especially when they go to 16.
Which they're definitely
And
doing.
then once Alabama gets left off of 16 when they go to, I don't know, 24, 32.
And they're going to use this outrage, this Alabama outrage, to justify the 16.
Oh, yeah.
If they even
I
don't
even understand, like, who thought of 12? That's such a odd number anyway. Why would you just go to 16?
I don't know.
And then that way you wouldn't have this ridiculous Oregon scheduling problem either.
855-212-4227. All right, college football playoff gets us kicked off today. Oregon, did they get hosed because they've got a hard path even though they're the number one overall seed? And 2, Alabama versus SMU. Do you really think SMU deserved to be left out over Bama? 855-212-4227. A lot going on today, guys. Chiefs winning on a last.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back, Maggie and Perloff Show. We started off with the college football playoff ranking. I mean, if you are casual and you tune in for these playoffs, you're going to think, how are Arizona State and Indiana in this thing? I mean, when they designed the 12-team playoff, they're like, let's go. We got to get the big dogs. We got to get the Hoosiers and whatever the Arizona State are called. Are they the Sun Devils? Yeah. Yeah, it is just I think it's a hysterical field, and nobody is with me. I put out on X that feels like a mid-major tournament. Everyone got really mad at me.
You're a troll. There's nothing mid-major.
This is a crazy field. Like the fact that Notre Dame has played their big win is Army. I mean, it's just so funny. It's such a bizarre field because of NIL and transfer portal. Nobody's good anymore except for Oregon, which is kind of awesome.
Notre Dame beat Texas A&M, which is also, by the way, the best win that Texas has.
And Texas A&M has been
Texas A&M is not even in the top 25.
And what have they done in the last, except for that one Johnny Manziel year? Like, that's not a big win. Anyway, it is a lot of fun. But I am going to credit you, Maggie Gray, for your restraint. We're already 28 minutes in the show, and I haven't heard Juan Soto's name yet.
Oh, well, now that you've brought it up, we'll wait on that for a second. Juan Soto reportedly signing with our New York Mets, which is a good day around here. We're
get out of here.
Basically Mets fans except for Perloff, who's a Phillies fan. So this is just, Christmas cometh early with Juan Soto. But first, Chris in Dallas wants to weigh in on the 12-team playoff. Chris, what do you have?
Yeah, I was thinking I like the format of getting the additional teams in, all the teams in there, the additional 8. I think you could do a different format for ranking them and do it on a formula of strength of schedule, win percentage versus teams over 500, and win percentage against top 25 teams. Just a thought.
Yep. Chris, it's not a bad one. I think you and Perloff are on the same page. That makes strength of schedule the biggest number one criteria, right?
Well, also, too, is there a way that college football can change this so everybody has closer to the same strength of schedule? There's probably not, right? I don't know. I just feel like the schedule, for the most part, kind of stinks, and I don't know why. I'm not sure. I look at the NFL. It's not ideal either. There are some teams get easy schedules, but it feels like it's a lot more fair, their system, where they have an actual system where there's no way that you can't have a team like the Chiefs get through by playing nobody. Eventually, everybody has to play somebody.
Yeah, but you are also the person who says anyone who gets to play the NFC South or the AFC South is at a much...
Well,
so that does actually impact seeding and all of that. Schedules come into play even in the pros.
But it's such a much, much bigger issue. I mean, you can't possibly look at this field of 12 and not say schedule is the number one overwhelming factor in this.
So here's what I think boils down to me. Strength of schedule is fine. Do you want conference champions to get the automatic bye? That's the other part of it, because Arizona State and Boise State, as much as we love those guys, it is a little funny to look and say, wow, these are the two teams, 2 out of the 4 teams that get buys. Like Oregon, Georgia, Boise State, Arizona State. A little of which one of these is not like the other, although to be fair to Boise, they basically lost to Oregon by a similar amount than Ohio State did. They lost by a field goal. Ohio State lost by 1 point. So when Boise was up against the big dog, they played really well. Yeah, Nico.
I think that also goes back to your point about Oregon getting screwed with the 1 seed thing, because if they did it just based on the rankings 1 through 12, the 8-9 matchup would be Indiana, Boise State.
Thank you, Nico. See,
Ohio State and Tennessee are 6th and 7th ranked teams in the country.
Yeah, the ranking versus the seeding is not the same.
But you have to say that in June then. You can't say it now.
Well,
it's
now
way
we know.
too late.
How are we supposed to know in June how this fakakta thing's going to work?
Well, we all
out the Yiddish.
Because we sat there and we made predictions, and it was very clear, like the 4 seed and the 3 seed, as a matter of fact, were going to be weaker because you have 2 giant conferences and ACC and Big 12 are below. And then we had no idea Boise State was going to get that high, which is kind of awesome. And we didn't know about Ashton Jennings sort of rewriting the record book.
That's true. But yeah, the ranking versus the seeding, it's like you're on 2 different planets. Let's go to Kevin's, our pal in San Antonio. Hey, Kev.
Hey, good morning, crew. This is to me, the college football playoff system is kind of complex.
Yeah.
It's versus it's the strength of the schedule versus the weak schedule. Now you have small schools that they might get recognized, and just like in the men's basketball tournament, Oakland upset Kentucky.
Yeah, Kevin, you know what? It's a great point. Thank you for making it. Always great to hear from you. Glad you're well. I think football's going to be a little tougher to pull off some of these upsets. I'm curious to see how this is going to go.
Well, this year it might happen. I mean, NIL has obviously created some form of parity where, you're right, Boise was right there with Oregon early in the season. Can I just read one tweet and then we'll move on? One tweet.
We don't have to move on ever. I mean, Bogusch is here, but I'll talk about this for... We'll talk about this for a year. I
want to let you guys do your little Juan Soto party and laugh in July when he gets hurt. But that's besides the point. Okay.
Hater in the house.
Man.
Yeah. We're throwing rotten fruit at you.
Our good friend Jim Nagy, director of the Senior Bowl, tweeted this, and I think it's very relevant. It sort of sums up my argument too. As someone with access to college tape and a staff of 11 former NFL scouts along hundreds of hours evaluating the college football season, it's easy to see why the SEC is mad. Based strictly off future NFL talent, Alabama, South Carolina, and Ole Miss, and you could even throw in Florida, A&M, and LSU are easily in the top 12. Now SEC ADs have no incentive to schedule tough non-conference opponents, which is a bummer for college football fans.
Well, Notre Dame and Miami beat some of those SEC teams that are ranked, so should they be higher?
And Alabama lost to Vanderbilt, which is an SEC school. What are we doing?
Vanderbilt has none of those NFL players, by the way.
I listen. We love Jim. Jim is a great friend of the show.
He's 100% right too.
See, I don't think
Except he's not.
Because here's the thing about the NFL talent versus this. This is what I don't love about that argument from Jim, and I'd say that if he was right here. I think that some of the great college football stories aren't necessarily guys who panned out in the pros, and some of the legends of college football and things that we remember has nothing to do with the NFL. The NFL is its thing. College is its thing. And I think it's okay. You don't have to say, because the Eagles' future defensive line happens to be all on Georgia, that they deserve X, Y, and Z, when we're here for some of the stories too. We're here for guys who are going to peak in college, and that's not a fault. That's not their fault.
Right, but we also know that if SMU was in the Big 12, they would be a middling team, and they would not be in this tournament. If Indiana was in the SEC, I mean, sorry, if SMU was in the SEC, they would not be good. If Indiana was in the SEC, they would not be in this bracket. Like, it just wouldn't. We know that's, as a fact, would not be happening.
Well, you say it's a fact, but you also probably would have said it's going to be a fact that Alabama's going to beat Oklahoma, and they lost by 3 touchdowns. So you can't just do it on paper.
So you're saying the Hoosiers could have gotten through the SEC like they did the Big Ten this year?
No, but I had a problem with the Hoosiers the whole time because the Hoosiers got to play the bottom of the conference. Now, if the Hoosiers were playing the SEC and got to play the total bottom of the SEC conference,
right,
then maybe they would have. Maybe they'd beat it.
No,
yeah, but
not even.
But
no way.
But Pearl, these leagues are so big that there is not a blanket SEC schedule anymore.
Yeah.
You can miss good teams. You can get them at home instead of on the road. It's not just saying an SEC. So now you're generally right. Okay. That those teams would have different records if they lived in a different conference. But it doesn't mean they'd be crappy, and it doesn't mean that they wouldn't be Vanderbilt beating Alabama.
It's really, really hard. As everybody on that ESPN show says, like, people don't understand the grind of going on the road in the SEC. For example, Alabama has to go through that brutal game against Georgia. Then they go into Vanderbilt on the road, where you have to understand the target on Alabama's back on a week-to-week basis. This is everybody else's Super Bowl when they come to town. It's a lot harder than Indiana or Penn State getting lucky to beat Minnesota.
Indiana played an entire season with 0 margin for error.
Except for their
pressure
loss.
too.
Except for Ohio State,
right? And they went almost out of the field, right? So they had 1% margin for error. They had 1 loss. Alabama had 3 losses, 3 loss forgiveness until yesterday.
Well, I always thought Indiana should have dropped even more, but they didn't, and I think that was deference to the Big Ten, and I don't know why. The Big Ten got. I understand why the Big Ten is one of the absolute powers. I get that, but I felt like Indiana should have been docked more because that final score was not, to me, indicative of how close that game was.
At the end of the day, there was only one conference that got multiple 2-loss teams into the playoff. That's the SEC.
Well,
the Big Ten didn't.
ACC.
Well, ACC had Clemson only lost 1 game in I'm talking about conference record.
Oh, okay.
Conference record wise, the SEC got multiple teams that lost 2 games in their conference, so they were shown respect. This idea that the SEC wasn't shown respect, they got the highest seeds. Teams that lost 2 games were ranked higher than teams that were undefeated or lost 1 game in their conference.
Yeah.
So this fairy tale, the SEC somehow is not being shown respect because Alabama, who lost 3 games, 2 games, the teams that won 6 games, I just don't buy it. To me, it's pure SEC propaganda.
Yep.
I think the other part, too, is why it's hard to stump for this Alabama team this year is twofold. And I see this a little bit on social media, but you guys can tell me if you think this is happening in real life, too. Which is not just that Alabama had the bad loss to Oklahoma, which is kind of fresh in our mind, but also the fact that I think a lot of people were upset last year that Alabama got in over Florida State. And there might be some residual bad feelings of like, geez, again, this Alabama team is supposed to get, more favorable treatment than a quote-unquote more deserving team.
I think the whole problem is a much bigger structural problem where if a conference is awesome, it's going to cannibalize itself. It's like, it doesn't, even if it's not that, say the Big Ten is amazing one year and they have all these great teams. What happens when you have great teams? You beat up each other. So, it doesn't make any sense. The better conference is going to knock its own teams out. That's just the way it's always going to be.
Yeah,
so the weaker conference is going to get more teams in.
But then again, there is NIL that should spread the talent out a lot more, too. So it's not just about, oh, my gosh, our conference is so great. There's also guys, maybe Kevin Jennings is playing in the SEC if there's not SMU money behind him or something like that.
Well, yeah, Kevin Jennings
I'm just
wasn't
using him
even a
as an
starter,
example.
right? But yeah. Generally, though, the same thing is totally going to happen next year. The SEC is going to be really good, and they're going to beat up each other, and we're going to have the same exact issue.
So Vanderbilt's a good football team? Oklahoma's a good football team? What would their record be in the Big Ten or the ACC?
Oklahoma
didn't lose to Texas and Georgia, and the other best team in the SEC. They lost to Vanderbilt and Oklahoma, and they scored 3 points at Oklahoma.
Oklahoma played Tennessee really tough. There's a lot. Oklahoma's not that bad.
What's the Oklahoma story for the last how many years has been how not good they are? Giving up points left and right.
They fired their OC. They got rid of their quarterback. It doesn't sound like a team that was on the way to going off to a big season.
Let's get to some headlines. We'll put a pin in that for a second. You're welcome to call 855-212-4227. We get it started with the college football playoff, but there was some other things that happened last night.
All the headlines are sponsored by Mint Mobile. Switch and get half off unlimited premium wireless at mintmobile.com/score. In the end, there was no pinstripe discount, no Aaron Judge preference. New York's baseball teams made reportedly competing offers to Juan Soto, and the 26-year-old stud chose the Mets overnight.
Yeah, Finally!
It's amazing how versatile that cut is. Me on the treadmill from a couple weeks ago. Let me just make sure I get my take my jacket off here. Make sure if you're watching on the YouTube stream, youtube.com/Infinity Sportsnet, twitch.tv/Infinity Sports Network. Base looks like the Mets team store in here today.
Yeah, and all it took was 15 years and $765 million, the richest deal in pro sports history.
Yeah.
There is a $75 million signing bonus. There's no deferrals because the Mets do things for real, unlike the Dodgers. There is an opt-out after 5. There's a little confusion around that. Apparently, the Mets can void that opt-out by increasing the remaining years by $4 million apiece, which would push the total value past $800 million. The Yankee offer is said to be 16 years, $760 million, which would have been a slightly lower annual average than the Mets.
Maggie, that looks like a vintage shirt, is it?
It's supposed to look vintage.
Oh, I was wondering if it's the same one you wore when they traded for Mo Vaughn or when they signed Bobby Bonilla or whatever disastrous overpay the Mets.
Those are definitely the same kind of players. It's a good point.
Well, the other part, too,
well,
is
I mean, come on, Bobby Bonilla.
Different kind of owner, too.
Wait. Mo Vaughn and Bobby Bonilla aren't the same kind of players as Juan Soto?
Neither one of them was a 26-year-old ridiculous on the way to the Hall of Fame
Mo
player.
Vaughn's coming off like a back surgery or something.
Well, that's
Don't
not
give Mo
talk
Vaughn.
trash about Bobby Bonilla. That guy could play.
Yeah, sure. But he's not Juan Soto. He wishes he was Juan Soto.
This is a great day, Perloff. Even you can't bring us down today.
Not even a chance.
You're not going to bring up 34-year-old Mo Vaughn as a date today. Sorry.
It's just
No, Mo Vaughn was awesome. That's the other.
Yeah, he was awesome, just not Juan Soto awesome.
5 years before he got to the Mets. That's when he was awesome.
No, this is, you can't bring us down. You can't rain in our parade today, Pearl.
No.
As much as you want to with your negativity, can't do
Nonsense.
it. No, but to be honest, your Phillies weren't even in the final 5. So you really can't.
Yeah. So when the Diamondbacks escape the NL next year, we'll all both be in the same boat because we have a huge payroll too.
Let's see. I mean, the Mets got to the NLCS without him last year, so you have to hope that this makes it even better.
Baseball also gave us the Dodgers reportedly signing veteran outfielder Michael Conforto last night, and Dick Allen and Dave Parker elected to the Hall of Fame by the Classic Baseball Era Committee. That covers players whose biggest impact came before 1980. Sunday also giving us the latest Chiefs escape.
Winchester snaps it. Placement is down. Wright's kick is up, and the kick is good! 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 And the Kansas City Chiefs do it again. The third kicker this season to have a walk-off field goal.
Mitch Holtis on Chiefs radio. I think you could hear the doink of Matthew Wright's game-winning 31-yard field goal going in off the left upright as time expired for a 19-17 home win over the Chargers on Sunday Night Football. As Holtis said, Wright's the third KC kicker this season with a walk-off field goal. No team had ever before had more than one. Patrick Mahomes, his team is now 12-1.
Even though I feel like we could have played better, I mean, that's a good football team, a good defense, and we were able to have a good last drive there to get us in field goal range. As long as we have a chance to go out there and have the football and make a play happen, I feel like we're going to make it happen.
The Chiefs win the AFC West for the 9th year in a row. They've also won 15 straight one-score games.
That was the most predictable ending of the Chiefs game. I didn't see the doink coming on the game winner, but basically that followed the script of the entire year. Let's put a pause on that. We got to take a quick break. Bogusch, thank you so much. When we come back, so much more on the news from last night about Juan Soto finally picking a destination, reportedly. He's coming to the New York Mets, and also more of your calls on the college football playoff bracket.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back. Had to wait for that drop. Okay, so bigger question for the college football playoff and looking at the bracket. What are you more upset about, or should we be more upset about? The fact that Alabama did get snubbed, SMU is in. I don't have a problem with that, by the way. I know Perloff does. The other part is, did Oregon get hosed because they're the number one overall seed, they're undefeated, yet it looks like they have one of the hardest paths because they have to play the winner of Ohio State, Tennessee, two incredibly strong programs.
I do want to clarify. SMU had to get in. I was furious. Like, SMU was going to get in over Alabama because you can't penalize them for a conference loss.
Yeah, my conference championship.
My bigger issue picture is like the scheduling seems off. It just seems bad that Penn State, Notre Dame, Texas, Indiana, that they didn't beat anybody and they're all in this field. I understand the committee had no choice. Like at the end of the day, their hands were tied. Alabama lost the third game.
Yeah.
But it just the state of college football seems off to me. I just don't understand why there's such a huge disparity in scheduling. Like how you can get to the playoff without ever beating anybody. Doesn't make sense to me, Maggie.
It does feel like a flaw in this format. Absolutely. Absolutely. But it wouldn't have been made better by somehow shoehorning Alabama into this thing and basically defying all of your own rules, however flimsy they may be, but defying everything you've said previously just to get Alabama. First of all, I don't think this Alabama team is worth that much backbending. And secondly, like you said, if you had taken SMU out of this field, I mean, then the committee's just a sham.
Yeah, no, because of the conference title game. Like, you're saying if they had sat home, they would have been fine. The fact that they went to that game, obviously, you can't penalize them for that.
Now, the fact they were down 2 scores to start the fourth quarter, I was like, ooh, this might not be good for SMU. But to their credit, they came all the way back and lost on the last second field goal.
They came out of the gate just tripped up completely. They threw up all over themselves in the first quarter. Then they settled down.
Yeah, lights a little bright for SMU at the outset, but they settled in.
Let me ask you a question. If Nick Saban was a coach of Alabama, are they in this playoff field?
See, I don't. We said that last year with FSU. If Deion Sanders was the head coach of Florida State,
that's a definite. That one's not even close. Of course they would.
I don't even think so. And Saban's been left out of the playoff before. I don't think so. And I think it's because they need college football as a whole, especially the people who are really counting the money. They need the conference championship games to still matter.
Yeah.
Because why wouldn't someone just opt out if that's even possible?
By the way, I don't even know, like, who's they? Like, I always wondered, like, college football, they don't need the money. Nobody owns these teams.
I think it's because when they promise something to the TV networks, like we're going to deliver on a product that's worth you spending billions of dollars. That can't be a conference championship game that means nothing. That's basically one giant throwaway.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, like, where does the money actually go? Like, who's earning this money? It's administrators.
We've been asking that for years.
Like now, it's like 1,000 college administrators to every one student, and they're all just, give me the money. Give me the money.
Listen, you can call in 855-212-4227 on this bracket. Now, EJ has a saying, people who duck smoke, right? Don't want to have to own up to it when their teams lose. I am not someone who ducks the smoke, which is why I'll go to George in L.A., whose Rams beat my Bills yesterday in one of the bizarro coaching situations I've ever seen, and that's saying something about my own team. George, to the victor goes the spoils. How you doing today?
Oh, good, Maggie. Good Perloff, EJ. That was a great game. The Rams, for the first time all year, their offense was on fire. They had to be on fire because they were going against a great Josh Allen. And, my gosh, somebody told me that he would get 3 rushing touchdowns, 3 passing touchdowns, break NFL record, and still lose. That was amazing.
Yeah, because you're not supposed to lose those games, George, when your quarterback has 3 rushing touchdowns and 3 passing touchdowns. You're supposed to win that game, and the Bills blew it.
They did not blow it. George, the Rams beat them because Puka Nacua went Superman on them.
He is amazing.
I mean, honestly, like, if you can't win that game when you have the best receiver game I've ever seen in my life, like, the Rams were awesome in that game.
Okay, why did he have the best receiver game of his life? It could be because Puka Nacua is the next Jerry Rice, or it could be because the Bills' defense didn't do anything different to try to stop him.
How do you defend a guy who's got 2 tippy toes and reaches out with one hand? Like, those catches were insane. There's no defense. I'm telling you, like, Kupp and Nacua earned that win.
Listen, that one play on the sideline with Nacua, you tip your hat to the guy. How about the other 10 targets when he's wide open in the middle of the field? Tom Brady is like jaw on the ground. He's like, you're not going to get more open than that. He goes, that's 100% completion rating for Matthew Stafford is going to find these guys.
No. Kupp made some incredible catches. It wasn't just that one. He's ridiculous.
George, congratulations. Thanks, George. Really, the story, though, is the Sean McDermott time management and the timeouts yet again come back to bite the Bills right in the
You also
Yeah.
let up 40-something points.
Yeah, well, that too. And he's the defensive play caller. Okay, lots more to do.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Maggie and Perloff on the Infinity Sports Network.
A 31-yard attempt from the right hash for the win. Wright says he's ready. Here's the snap. Ball down. The kick is on the way. It is off the upright and good. And Kansas City wins. The ball went off the left upright and went through. And the Chiefs have won the game 19-17.
Thank you to Ryan Radke and Westwood One. I mean, if this isn't the ultimate Chiefs W, I don't know what is, Perloff. Welcome to the show, by the way. I mean, not only is it the Chiefs winning on a walk-off something, right? It's Patrick Mahomes having the ball in his hands to bleed out the clock over the last 5 minutes. It was so predictable. I didn't see the doink coming. That just added a little extra drama. But it's so Chiefs that even on their third kicker of the season, that they would get a field goal to win the game that doinks off the upright and still goes in.
Yeah, I think actually everyone's like, oh, the Chiefs feel inevitable. I think there's a correction coming because they're on a 3-game win streak. They got killed by your Bills. Not got killed, but they lost pretty decidedly. Then they beat Carolina, Vegas, and the Chargers. The Chargers are a shell of the Chargers. You know, they didn't have Ladd McConkey, and they don't have their running back. Like, I didn't even know. I'd never heard of some of the targets last night.
Stone.
Yeah, who is that guy?
What's his name? Stone Smart?
And then
Stone Smart.
They kept throwing to Josh Palmer, who we know can't catch, and he was good. So the Chiefs are messing with everybody. I think they might have 2 losses coming up. They're at Cleveland, by the way. I don't think nothing's guaranteed with the Chiefs. They decide that they're not going to beat anybody by more than a touchdown. So at Cleveland, Houston, that's not decided at all. At Pittsburgh and at Denver, I think your Bills are still alive for this number 1 because I watched the Chiefs last night. I'm like, ooh, they're not good. They're just not great. I mean, they're good. They're not great.
See, when I watch this and I just see how the game flow is going, and it's like that one moment when the Chargers have to kick the field goal and can't go for the touchdown, and then you give the ball back to Mahomes, like you're just not getting the ball back. It's just not happening. Or something else would go right for the Chiefs. I don't know if it's a correction. I was thinking a couple things. One, Chiefs now have a 2-game lead up in the AFC. So if they get home field advantage again through Arrowhead, I know last year they didn't have it and they went to the Super Bowl and won anyway. But for a Chiefs team that, yeah, I'll agree with you, maybe is not the juggernaut that we're used to, having home field is going to be everything. So they accomplished their goal in that way where they put a little cushion between themselves and the Bills for the number 1 overall seed. And
the Steelers.
And the Steelers as well. Good point. I don't see it as a correction. I see it as just things are breaking their way during this dynasty. And that's just what's happening. And the dynasty's not over. And that's what it feels like to me
Kind of like the Patriots?
Kind of. And I know the Patriots didn't win every game and the Giants beat them in the Super Bowl and all that. But this Chiefs team, there's a belief. Whereas opposed to the Bills go on the road yesterday, they play one of the worst halves of football that we've seen this entire season, make this furious comeback and lose because they have some boneheaded coaching decisions. Like, you're never going to get that with the Chiefs.
No, that's true. Well, Andy Reid has had a few of those over the years. Yeah, I just think that, first of all, Patrick Mahomes is getting hit practically every play because he has no idea where to throw the ball because his targets are terrible. I mean, they definitely do not
as bad as the Chargers. The Chargers need some wide receiver help big time.
Last night, he doesn't trust anybody. Maybe Hopkins, and then at the end, Kelsey. But I just think that he just goes back. He just does not have a receiver to throw to. He misses Rashee Rice so badly right now. That would totally transform them. They're very, very non-explosive.
But
you
they
agree
got
with that?
Pacheco back, and
thank God.
And that's another thing that helps them salt these games away. It's like they're just so good at playing the clock management game. And how many times is it teams beating themselves or, just the Chiefs are the smarter team with the best quarterback, and that gives them such a gigantic edge in this sport.
But can't you see them being in a dogfight with Jameis Winston and the Browns in Cleveland next week?
I don't know if it matters. I don't know if it does, because look, they're winning the games where they absolutely must, which is they beat the Broncos on a last-second block field goal. They're beating the Chargers. They're cruised to another division title.
They definitely should have lost to the Broncos. I mean, they definitely should have lost to the Raiders. And the Raiders are terrible.
Well, they just wait for the Raiders to pee down their leg, which is what happened.
I mean, okay. And last night, I'm telling you, that Chargers team was not right either. I'm like, what is going on? They're beating some very, very average teams. So this last run of 4 teams is not easy. You get some brutal defenses coming at you. You're going to have some serious pass rushers. I know last night they have good, but you got Myles Garrett. Then you got the Will Anderson is back and Danielle Hunter on Houston. Then you got that Pittsburgh crew and then Denver. Like, this is going to be, there might be some ugly moments for the Chiefs offense in the coming 4 weeks, which is fine. Just don't get Mahomes hurt.
Man, I think they find a way to beat these teams. They will continue to do it. It's like an object in motion tends to stay in motion, whatever that property is of physics. I'm clearly not a math and science person, but that's what it feels like to me. It's this momentum of the Chiefs. 855-212-4227, that they'll find a way and you won't. The Chiefs winning last night, just one of the stories that happened over a very packed weekend. The inaugural 12-team college football playoff bracket has been released. We got some issues. We do. I have an issue with Oregon being the number 1 overall seed, being undefeated, and having one of the hardest quarterfinal matchups that exists in this bracket. Congratulations, Oregon. You get the winner of Tennessee, Ohio State. Since when is that okay for a number 1 seed to have such a hard path? I have less of a problem with Alabama being left out. In fact, I have no problem with Alabama being left out. SMU falls by a walk-off field goal from Clemson in the ACC championship game. I still believe that SMU deserved to be in.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, except I do have just a problem with the way the field did not consider the strength of schedule. It really was not a factor at all. It meant nothing. At the end of the day, did it have any impact on anything? No. So that's the problem with college football, because I do believe the SEC is not just talking. I think they're going to scrap a lot of their non-conference schedules, and we're going to have boring Septembers. But that's cool, because we'll have the NFL. We'll just sort of get our way through, like seeing Tennessee play Western Kentucky or something. I just think the schedule is going to get much weaker, not better, after the way this committee went down.
Let's go to Mark. He's an Alabama fan. Mark, are you here to complain?
No, I'm not here to complain. You just made my point for me. I'm obviously an Alabama fan. I've have been all my life. I remember Coach Bryant and all the coaches since and the teams. And I don't think Alabama earned their way into the playoffs this year. They didn't play well enough. They weren't consistent. They made too many mistakes. They played well the first half. And we're awful second half, and so they don't deserve it. I don't think Notre Dame deserves it. Somehow they get a pass.
Well, Notre Dame, Mark, is playing in it's a different. I hate to say conversation. The conversation should be the same for all these teams, but it's just not, because Notre Dame's schedule is not what Alabama's schedule is. I'll totally concede that point. And Mark, thank you for the call and the level head. But
Notre Dame's schedule is so quirky because they're independent.
It's always like that.
You can't, if you want to talk about the system, which I think is really what we're ultimately talking about today, then you really can't even talk about Notre Dame because there's nobody else in their situation.
Let's hear from Ward Manuel. So he's the athletic director for Michigan, and he's the guy who has to come out and explain the thought process. He said the SMU-Bama debate was robust.
We looked at the number of wins that Alabama had against ranked opponents. We looked at SMU's schedule, and they were undefeated in conference. Their losses were to ranked teams. But we also looked at Alabama's loss to unranked teams. And it was quite a debate. I mean, we value strength of schedule. That's why Alabama, as a 3-loss team, is ranked ahead of other teams that have 2 losses.
Right, so if that doesn't make sense to you, they do a ranking 1 through 25, the committee. But that's not the seeding. The seeding for the bracket is totally different because of these predetermined rules about who was getting first-round buys, which was conference champions. And it ends up being the Big Ten, the SEC, the Big 12, and the Group of 5 winner, which was Boise.
Right.
The ACC winner didn't even get a bye. That's Clemson. They have to play Texas in the first round.
I mean, right. If you didn't have the conference championship winners, you would knock Clemson out with 3 losses, and you would probably knock out Arizona State. Boise, I think, makes it.
And I think they would deserve to be in this field.
Yeah.
I just don't know if they would deserve to have a first-round bye, but that's the way it works out.
Yeah, I think Boise would have made it over Alabama. It is kind of funny. Clemson, of course, recently lost to South Carolina, who Alabama beat. Like, if you're going to play this game, you can knock anybody out. You kind of mentioned, I think there's going to be change coming because of the road that Oregon is facing.
Well, and what's a bummer about that is because you feel like this is a heck of a year to be the guinea pig. It's like, we've got to be the guinea pig for this crazy, first time ever for college football playoff. We happen to have the best team. We happen to be the undefeated team. We're the first ever 1 seed in a 12-team college football playoff. And the flaws of this format are just so glaring.
But I don't think their road is that hard, though. I mean, I know they had trouble with Ohio State, but I'm not sure Ohio State gets past Tennessee. Like, Ohio State, you can't win in college football when you run for 1.5 yards a carry, especially when you have a bunch of NFL players on your offense. Like, Ohio State will find a way to play down.
Well, let's see. Tennessee might beat Ohio State. It might be
Tennessee. That's what I'm saying.
Like,
and definitely Tennessee is not going to scare Oregon. Tennessee is not even having a good year for Tennessee, and somehow they're here.
Well, but they're an SEC team.
Yeah, they have good lines. They have good defensive line and offensive line, but they're certainly nothing like that great Hendon Hooker team.
No, but what do they always say? What's the cliche about what do you need to be a good team on the road?
Yeah,
good lines. That's always that's the saying. Good lines travel.
I think it was on our friends at the Pick Six podcast. I'm sorry, what's the Cover 3 podcast, CBS Sports, with Danny Cadell. It's just like, yeah, these teams are in the playoff. In a normal year, none of them would be here. Like I think NIL.
Not none of them, but yeah, I get your point.
Yeah, NIL and transfer portal. Like, they're like, these teams are much weaker than what we're used to because the talent is so spread out. That just means this 12-team playoff is going to be chaos, which to me says, like, I don't know that Oregon's draw is any harder than anyone else's because we have no idea. I mean, Oregon, I know they sort of let Penn State back in that game. Like, is Penn State good? Does anyone know?
No, all I know is James Franklin now goes to 1-14 against teams ranked in the top 5. That's tough.
And not good against top 10 either.
Not good against top 10
I think
either.
He'll see a few of those. It's going to be fun. I have no faith in my Penn State Indy Lions, none whatsoever. Like, you cover that one guy, that tall 44, like they're done. They're done.
The running backs played well actually against Oregon. This was interesting for Oregon because their defense just was not what we have seen throughout the season. Now, to be fair, the offense was also amazing. Dylan Gabriel with a 4-touchdown, no turnover performance. I mean, he was really good. So Penn State gets SMU in the first round. That's at State College. And then they would, if they beat SMU, they play Boise State in the Fiesta Bowl. That is as good as it's going to get for a 6 seed in this bracket.
But what does that mean about Oregon? Because we saw their offense completely falter against Wisconsin, and their defense was good. So, like, there's no rhyme or reason. Like, you can't say, Oregon's defense is the big vulnerability coming into this tournament because it just doesn't make any sense. None of this makes any sense. I think anybody who thinks they know how this is going to play out is crazy.
So, Coming up, we will pick our upsets. Who do we think is going to be upset in the first round? Again, these are the opening games. It's going to be, as we said, Ohio State playing Tennessee. That's going to be in Columbus. Winner would play Oregon. You have Texas hosting Clemson. That's the 5-12 in Austin. You've got Indiana traveling, not far, in-state to Notre Dame to play the Irish in South Bend. And then you have State College, Pennsylvania, the site of SMU traveling to Penn State. We'll pick an upset for you. Maybe a few.
Yeah, I mean, all right, let's just admit it, just a preview. I'd be shocked if anyone picks Indiana to beat Notre Dame. That one feels like a tall mountain to climb. I actually have to be honest, I've not seen the spreads on all these games. They're 2 weeks away, right? So yeah, this is I'm not sure, like, is an upset really an upset in all these cases? Are there upsets in college football right now, or is it total parity?
855-212-4227. Coming up, we've got that, and also a big question about one of these college football playoff teams that we have not discussed yet, and who is getting by on reputation. We'll get to that next.
All right, Maggie. I look like I'm in a good mood today. That is because I bet the under not bet the under. I picked the under on Justin Herbert on Prize Picks yesterday. Prize Picks is the best. You can make your holidays big and bright because there's so many games, and Prize Picks is the best place to get real money action while watching your sports. Over 10 million members, billions of dollars in awarded winnings. They made daily fantasy sports accessible to all, simple to use. Pick 2 or more players across any sport. Pick more or less of their projection. You could win up to 200 times your money. It's going to be so good for college football playoff.
Yeah, and how about this? Because the holiday season is in full swing at Prize Picks, they're giving away 2 free picks in December. They're giving away $30+ million in rewards during Picksmas. I love a pun. Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. It's available to play in more than 40 states, including California and Texas. See if it's available in your state. Download it now.
Yeah,
this holiday season is going to be awesome with Prize Picks.
Download the Prize Picks app and use the code MNP to get a $50 credit instantly when you play just $5. That's code MNP on Prize Picks to get a $50 credit instantly when you play just $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. Must be present in certain states. Visit prizepicks.com for restrictions and details.
You're in a 4-minute break. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. 15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
All right, we're back here on Maggie and Perloff. So much going on today. Wild NFL Sunday. Crazy noontime ESPN, the final 12. I think nobody's happy. Is it fair to say that no one's happy? And they're definitely changing the system this year. I'm just curious if they keep on screwing over the SEC, is the system going to take a real massive sea change where Big Ten and SEC take their ball away and go form their own thing? And the only reason I think that is not ridiculous is because the change is happening so fast in college football. Look at conference realignment this year, Maggie. Like, it came fast and furious. It's just insane how fast you get. All of a sudden, you get NIL, and now next year, maybe players are going to get paid. Like, nothing is permanent, and it can change in 2 years. I don't even care what the deals are. They just rip them all up and say, hey, let's go.
Yeah, it's very Zoolander. I don't care what the date says. The problem with this is I think that what really blew apart college football, let's take steps back. Like, let's really go 30,000 feet. College football had been very slow about changes for a long time until the pandemic, right? The pandemic really shined a spotlight that said, clearly you're not treating students and student athletes the same, because some are allowed back on campus and the other are not allowed back on campus, and the other you're trying to play in 8 football games, 8 home games a year. It became so glaring of how hypocritical it was, and there was this sort of inflection point. I don't know if that amount of change and the speed with which the sport changed, I don't know if that just means that's how it's changing from here on out. I could see conference commissioners, administrators, all the people in our life who are so responsible for red tape. I don't see them all of a sudden just keeping this rate of change, because I think the TV networks would say, well, what am I paying for? If the SEC and the Big Ten want to take their ball and go home and go to a different, go to their own tournament, so you're telling me I got to shell out more billions when I just shelled out all these billions? Like, what's going on? I mean, the NBA, which is by all accounts slumping, just got $29 billion in their new deal. So trust me, college football could find the money if ESPN's not interested. I totally disagree with that thing about the pandemic, because I think the O'Bannon ruling had already come down. Like, Congress and the Supreme Court and everybody had been dunking on college football for 10 years. Like, common sense prevailed. These basically, you watch a college football game, there's 400 commercials. Like, that money has to start going to the players. It's been insane. I know, and it changed way before the pandemic, because, like, I think NIL passed in Florida in 2019. Like, it was already, like, it was becoming very clear, because both the Republicans and the Democrats were destroying the NCAA. Yeah. Systematically just hammering them in court and in legislation. I get that, but I think the pandemic was the inflection point of this, because it was so glaring how 2 different types of students were being treated so differently. And it was like or maybe the inflection point, the catalyst to just speed everything up, because it had been existing for 100 years where we know that players should have been getting paid and they weren't, like, in a real way. Let's go to Ronnie, who's in Montgomery, Alabama. Ronnie, you mad that Alabama got left out?
Oh, no, ma'am, not at all. And I'm an Alabama fan. You know, they didn't play well enough to deserve getting in. But what I was wanting to comment about was, I think what would make people happy would be, first of all, get rid of the committee. Second, go by the AP poll. Yeah. And then your top 12 or top 16 or whatever it's going to be, in the future or whatever. Have one play 16, 2 play 15, and so on and so forth until you get down to the championship game. And I think that'd solve a lot of this insanity is the way I see it. Ronnie. So thank y'all for taking my call.
Thanks for making it. Couple very salient points there. Yep. First of all, we are not seeing Alabama fans who are calling us today or on in Alabama who are so wildly upset. It feels like TV and maybe Nick Saban are more upset about this than anybody, but you'd understand Coach Saban. Ronnie has a great point here. Why do we need a third set of rankings? We've got the AP. We've got the coaches poll. Why do we need a third set of this college football playoff rankings? Why can't they just work off the AP?
The coaches poll, forget about it, because who knows how much attention the coaches are actually paying to it. The AP is writers. I don't know. Like, you trust them? Like, I'm not sure they should pick the writers should pick the national champion. That seems weird.
Well, they're not picking the national champion. They're just picking the field.
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't seem ideal either. I think you need to get like insiders, people in the industry.
Yeah, but they have biases too. Yeah, Nico.
Wasn't that why they brought the BCS into it, though? Because they didn't like how the AP poll was doing things?
Yeah, then everyone was screaming that the BCS wasn't right. And if you can't trust the computers, our future overlords, our current overlords, then who can you trust? But again, Ronnie makes a couple good points. Who needs another committee? In sports and in life? More meetings, more emails? When does it end?
I get it. I get what he's saying. When Miami was taken out last week, I was trying my best to pick holes at this committee. I don't know how much I love having the ADs in there, but there are former football coaches, former football players in there. So it's not like there are just these suits who don't know anything about football like making these picks. That's just not the case. Jim Grobe's in there, respected. Gary Pinkel, I think, is in there. So some respected former coaches. I do think, though, I would wish there would be maybe a bigger pool and there'd be actual polling. Like, I don't think I like the whole consensus because I don't really know, who is picking who's voting for what. Like, I think what I like about what the NBA did with, like, the awards, how they had to vote and you had to hold your record to your vote. Like, if you're a media member, we now know who you voted for.
Yeah, it's transparent.
Yeah, I kind of like that. And I think that would maybe help with this situation. Like, we can go and say, okay, who said that SMU should be over Alabama? Who said Alabama should be over SMU? Who ranked Ohio State where they were? If we had that, I think maybe it'd be a little better. Instead of having 15 or 20 guys and women say we all came to a consensus and this is how it happened. We know that's not how it went down.
Right. You want to see who picked who,
right.
Who said what. You want ballots overturned.
Yes,
or
exactly.
Yeah, I get it. Not overturned, revealed.
Yeah, revealed, right, yeah.
But also, too, about Alabama, one thing, like, this is obviously a weird year of Alabama because they just lost Nick Saban and their best players left. I mean, Caleb Downs would be the best player on that team by a large stretch. And Jalen Milroe doesn't fit with the new coach. So I don't know. Like, I'm very curious. Like, is Alabama going to cause problems with this committee? Because I don't know if they're going to be good next year. Are they? Like, is Kellen DeBoer good, Maggie? He seems good, but I don't think this was like him and Milroe don't seem like oil and water. This is not.
Well,
I remember Michael Penix last year for him was running his offense to the T, and Alabama was a bit of a mess this year. So I think it's a weird year for Alabama, but generally, like, you can't leave them out every year. You got to get them in here.
Sorry, I didn't mean to jump into there.
Yeah.
I think that could be a Milroe thing.
I don't know. I mean, that team was pretty good last year.
They also needed one of the most epic, like, touchdown throws and catches to beat Auburn in the Iron Bowl. And then, to their credit, took Michigan to the wire in overtime. I get it, but they couldn't do center quarterback snaps right. I mean, there was a lot of things with Alabama that were not perfect last year, too.
Yeah, I mean, I just think you should run Milroe all the time. Like, that's, like, his strength, and that's not Kellen DeBoer's strength. Like, isn't he run a passing offense?
Yep.
Yeah, so I just think regardless of what you think of Milroe, like, he's not a Kellen DeBoer quarterback. I don't know what a Kellen DeBoer quarterback is, but, and also, too,
like Michael Penix, he's had him didn't he have him for like 6 years?
Like, he just got in there a little too late. He just got in there a little too late to fix his roster when Downs left and then Caden Proctor left, and I guess that all, whatever happened there, like, you got to give the guy a break. I think Kellen DeBoer is under a lot of pressure next year. Because you're right, everyone's calling in. Nobody from Alabama is mad about this, but it's just a messy situation here because at some point the SEC is going to get furious.
No one from Alabama is calling in mad because they lost to Oklahoma in the way they did, but they're not mad yet. I'm going to tend to agree with you that DeBoer is going to come in. It's going to feel a little different. It's like, all right, even Saban, was not perfect in his first season at Alabama, but then he picked it up real fast. Now, college football is different than back when Coach Saban took over. Quickly, Ramon is in Indianapolis. Ramon, congratulations. 2 teams from the state of Indiana, both in this bracket.
Yeah, and then they put them against each other on purpose to eliminate one of them because I guess they didn't want to look like they had any type of state or Midwest bias or something like that. I agree with that previous caller about Notre Dame. I've debated with a number of people, especially my brother. He's a Notre Dame fan. Notre Dame hasn't played anybody. You know, Indiana only played Ohio State. So I think the problem is that in the SEC, they have no choice but to beat each other up. You're going to have 2 and 3 loss, maybe even 4 loss teams eventually, especially next year when the schedules even get tougher. And we need these other schools. We need people to play. Oregon really only played a competent, Ohio State team. They didn't really play anybody in the Big Ten. The Big Ten is terrible. That's why IU probably benefited from that, from a weak conference.
Yeah.
What we want to see going forward is these teams playing each other in the regular season. I think the networks want to see it. That'll drive ratings. I think it'll be good. We just saw Buffalo last night against the Rams. That was probably great for L.A. and the L.A. market to see that game. We should see more of these regular season games because we got a playoff now where we shouldn't have to rely on people trying to have these shiny records.
Yeah. Ramon, it's the opposite, though. That's we're getting the exact opposite from the people in charge. They want Ramon, thank you. You like the AFC and the NFC showdown yesterday between the Bills and the Rams. They're saying the opposite. Now the powers that be, or not powers that be, the SEC is saying, well, we're not going to schedule anybody in the non-conference because we feel like we have no margin for error. I'm sorry, what was Ramon? What was the theory there? The committee put Indiana and Notre Dame in the first round on purpose to knock one of them out so that it didn't look favorable to the Midwest?
Correct. So you don't have 2 Indiana teams possibly in the semifinal or deep into the playoff where it's like, how did this happen?
I actually thought, oh, man, they want like a local matchup.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. And I guess it doesn't make sense, but I thought that's what the 7-10 was.
Well, what is this, Hujanon? Like, who is actually floating this theory? And by the way, when I said that Oregon getting the number 1 overall seed, I thought should have gotten a more favorable quarterfinal matchup, I was told by everyone here, what were they going to do? Everyone's locked in. They have to play the winner of Tennessee, Ohio State. There's no way that you could play with it. But clearly...
Well, the Big Ten headquarters is famously in Indianapolis. Yeah. And, the Ward Manuel is a Michigan guy who's leading this. So I see what Ramon is. I don't agree, but I see what the dots Ramon is trying to connect there.
Where I disagree with your take, Maggie, is I think like Notre Dame is not any worse than Ohio State or Tennessee. Like I don't think there's some easy outs in this field for Oregon. Like Notre Dame be favored against Tennessee, wouldn't they? Or am I?
I think so.
Yeah.
Ooh, I don't know. Yeah. But this is just interesting that you guys are willing to say that the committee set this up to be cute. But when it comes to Oregon, you can't the number 1 overall seed, not just whoever would have been there. But this year it's Oregon.
Well,
they can't get anything. They get no reward, air quotes, for being the number 1.
Well, I mean, to be cute, I guess you would have had to move Ohio State out of there, but I don't know. They were 8. Like, do you move them up to 7 or you move them down to 10? I guess. I don't know. It seems hard to do.
I mean, the only way you would have been able to do it is either you put Indiana ahead of Ohio State, even though they lost Ohio State head-to-head.
Well, that's not happening.
Or you move Penn State back to 8 and say, well, Penn State lost Ohio State, so therefore we're putting Penn State in that spot. But then you're punishing Penn State for playing a tough Oregon team in a Big Ten championship game where they lost by by 1 score.
You're not punishing them because you didn't take them out of the bracket totally. You can drop someone more than 2 spots for losing. I just don't think you want to drop them out. Andrew Bogusch is here with headlines on this fine Monday morning. We have so much to get to. What's up, Bogusch?
Guys, good morning again. These headlines are sponsored by Prize Picks. Football season's heating up, and Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. Download Prize Picks, use code PRIMETIME, and get a $50 credit instantly when you play $5. Must be present in certain states where it's lawful to wager. Visit prizepicks.com for restrictions and details.
That's prime time. We want people to actually sign up.
I'm sorry, prime time. Prime time.
Yes.
That's my fault. Read too fast. The Mets now have the Wayne Gretzky of vasectomies of right fielders. Juan Soto isn't a Yankee or Red Sox or Dodger. He's a Met for the bargain basement price of $765 million, but over 15 seasons.
That's not a lot.
The 26-year-old has reportedly gets a $75 million signing bonus. There are no deferrals in this deal. The last Yankee offer is said to be for 16 years and $760 million. The Chargers didn't commit a dumb penalty or snap the ball at the wrong time or have their game-winning field goal blocked. They just couldn't stop the Chiefs for the final 4.5 minutes. KC driving from Matthew Wright's game-winning 31-yard field goal as time expired last night at Arrowhead. Justin Herbert on what could have been.
It's always a tough game, and for those guys to stick in there, battle it, didn't go our way at the end. But I have a lot of appreciation for those guys sticking and fighting and doing everything they can, all 4 quarters.
Herbert and company were down 13-0 at the half, then scored on all 3 second-half possessions, but they lose 19-17. They joined the Broncos at 8-5, but win a tiebreaker for the 6th seed right now. The Chiefs, they are 12-1 and AFC West champs for the 9th season in a row. But Patrick Mahomes was sacked 3 more times last night, so that's 13 in their last 3 games.
By the way, is Justin Herbert going to survive the season or any week? Like, that's just, it's hard to watch at a certain point.
Yeah, he took basically an entire body weight of a launched missile of a person into his thigh. That looked really painful.
And that wasn't even the worst hit. There was one early on where he threw the ball and somebody hit him in the ribs too. It's brutal. He's just such a big target and he holds on to the ball to the last minute.
I'm getting some Big Ben vibes from him.
Mm.
I wonder what the end of his career looks like. Like, is he too beat up? He takes a lot of hits because he thinks he can take it, I think.
Yeah. I mean, Mahomes took a lot of hits last night, too. How many times did Mahomes get licked? Like at least a dozen.
For sure.
So Maggie can't believe the Bills lost to the Rams despite 6 Josh Allen touchdowns. If only Buffalo had Sam Darnold.
JJ in motion to the right. 3rd and 8. Minnesota 6 of 11 on 3rd down. Sam under a lot of pressure. How'd you get away from that? Now he throws deep. Justin wide open. Caught. Touchdown! Justin Jefferson!
That's Paul Allen on Vikings radio, and that might have been my favorite touchdown yesterday because there's a Jaguar defensive back that's dying behind Justin Jefferson.
Atlanta, you mean?
Yeah, Atlanta.
Atlanta, I'm sorry. He's just he's diving in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
He's 10 yards away. It looked like me playing defense against my son in Madden. I don't know where the buttons are. Yeah. Guys diving and jumping. I still don't know what happened to that poor man. I hope he's okay since. But Darnold yesterday, 347 and 5 scores, 2 to Jefferson, 3 to Jordan Addison. Both those numbers, the yards and touchdowns, career highs for Sam in a 42-21 thumping of Kirk Cousins and those Falcons. Atlanta's now dropped 4 straight in that skid. Cousins 0 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, but I guess his job is safe, says Raheem Morris.
Kirk played significantly better than he did the week before. We got a chance to go out there and focus on us and get a chance to go out there and really work on what we do and what we do well. And we'll do whatever is best to go win football games, and Kirk's definitely a part of that.
He played better than the week before when he threw 4 interceptions. Right. Like, cool. I don't know if this is the time to be doing baby steps, trying to make the playoffs.
I mean, that division, oh my God. Even the Bucs, I know they won, but they look terrible too. How come the NFC South can be this bad for this long? I mean, the Falcons are going to win this thing and they're 6-7?
Well, the Bucs right now will have the 1-game lead, but the Falcons have the tiebreakers. They've already swept Atlanta of the Bucs so far this season. Non-CFP news: Purdue hires UNLV head coach Barry Odom, and Tulane's John Sumrall has reportedly taken his name out of consideration for the UNC job that Bill Belichick apparently wants. LeBron missed his first game of the season with a foot injury last night, and the Lakers beat the Blazers 107-98 to snap a 3-game skid. Anthony Davis, 30 points, 11 boards. Bronny had a block in 3 minutes. Steph Curry scored 30 in the Warriors' 114-106 win over the T-Wolves, and the Suns lost in Orlando 115-110. Phoenix now 1-9 without Kevin Durant. The Colorado Avalanche, a 4-0 win in New Jersey, and Lando Norris won the F1 finale in Abu Dhabi yesterday, clinching the team title for McLaren. Lewis Hamilton finishes 4th in his final race for Mercedes. He now moves to Ferrari. Guys, back to you.
Bogusch, we're going to need you to put on your Johnny journalism hat for a little bit.
Okay.
And do a deep dive to figure out which New York Giants player left free tickets for the OnlyFans woman to come and flash the Saints sidelines. We're going to really need your best work on this one.
So I was literally just going back through the posted messages and texting some sources. And in the back and forth with this woman, he says, "You'll know my number right away, like at the game."
Yeah.
So what number could that be? Like, there's only one naughty number that I can think of.
Yeah. who wears 69.
Right.
But that's going to be an offensive lineman.
What, they can't pay for boobs?
No, I'm sure they can, and I'm sure they have. I'm just wondering, what offensive lineman for the Giants is like, I got the... by the way, isn't it better actually, the Giants are trying to lose right now. You guys have not seen this story. This woman from OnlyFans claims, and has the receipt, she posted it, but claims that a New York Giants player sent her free tickets, but she needed to complete the assignment of flashing the Saints players to try to distract them. I would think you'd want to be flashing your own players because you're trying to lose right now to get the number one pick.
So the Giants do have a number 69. He's a defensive lineman, Corey Durden, a first-year player from NC State.
Suspect number 1.
Yeah.
He kind of...
Has to be.
That's a kind of a big thing for a rookie to pull off, don't you think?
He had a pretty good game. He had a tackle for a loss here. It was one of the only games he played this year. This is adding up.
Mm-hmm.
This is the only game he registered stats.
I mean, who's sending... This is like, are they in the Rob Gronkowski school? Like that, to say that you'll know by my number? Anyway. Perloff's not into this story.
No.
Conscientious objector.
I thought we were talking about the Giants. That means it's nap time for me.
She'll wake you up.
By the way, what was the final score of that game?
14-11.
Block field goal.
No, I did see it.
Elite tanking.
EJ said that this is the only game that he's registered stats. What did he like? Go to Dable and be like, "My girl's gonna be in the crowd. You gotta let me play."
Alyssa's here, and Dayball was like, "Yeah, great."
He's taking requests.
My girl Alyssa Phoenix with 3 X's.
By the way, also somebody
course.
decided to fly a plane over the stadium.
Also her.
Jumped right in a plane.
That's how she got there.
That said, Mr. Mara, fix this dumpster fire. And I just love that you would go through the hiring a plane, having the message on it, flying it over the stadium, but still refer to the owner as Mr. Mara. Like, what? Now it's all, the pleasantries.
What do you want, Johnny Boy? What do you want in the
They're just like, hey, idiot, change the team, not Mr. Mara. Like, so now we're being all deferential and polite. Anyway, Malik Neighbors.
And he's not going to listen either, right? Mara's running it back, isn't he?
Looks like it. Malik Neighbors was asked about it after. He goes, I didn't hire the plane.
That was a pretty
Thank you.
furious comeback from your Giants. That might have made you nervous yesterday, huh?
Oh, you think I was watching that game?
Well, once the OnlyFans model showed up, I think a lot more people tune in.
Perloff during the Jet game was like, during the Jets overtime, like, this is a big overtime. I'm like, for who? Not me.
That one I disagree with. Like, Rodgers needed a W so bad yesterday for
narrator.
For something. I don't
get it.
Yeah. I think the fact that he didn't single-handedly blow the game is kind of a W for Rodgers. Like, the defense, that's fine. Like,
I know, I get it, Pearl. Your Eagles are great. I think you have to understand just how checked out New York football fans are right now. They think that we care anything.
Well, that's why I didn't bring up the girl
going
to flashing everybody. It's the only interesting thing that happened at the game yesterday.
See, I think the Jets are still interesting to people. The Giants, no.
Poll question. Are the Jets interesting? Yes, no. 855-212-4227. Right now. Are they interesting right now?
Make
okay.
Perloff tweet that poll question.
What's the question?
You do that on one of your side polls on your own account.
Are the Jets interesting? Yes.
If it's a Perloff poll, it would be like, unless you're an idiot, do you agree with me that the Jets are interesting?
Well, no, because my fan base has no New York in it, so they don't think like you guys at all. They're like, they know that Juan Soto is going to be a total disappointment. You guys are still in the New York haze.
Day one, we get to be excited about this. Not any of your Philadelphia storm cloud negativity can wash over us today.
You're the Mets.
And this is a huge day for the Mets to get Juan Soto.
You're the Mets.
855-212-4227. Okay. Back to the college football playoff. Perloff and I have our first round upset for you. Yes, we're already diving into the matchups. Don't move.
You're in a 5-minute break.
This is Andrew Perloff.
Living life in 20-second views. Scrolling through, he's got no time to lose. Maggie and Perloff, Daily's keeping score. YouTube's his love. He's begging for more. Double tap, clicking on that video. From sunrise to sunset, he never lets it go. Maggie snappy, Perloff's got a glow. Daily's hooked, he's looking for the show. Chasing trends, Daily's on a quest. Comments pouring in, he's one of the best. From every corner of the internet's reach. Daily's voice. Pine Needles wakes up at dawn. Coffee brewing, screen turned on. He's got a favorite show to see. The Maggie and Perloff Symphony. Oh, Pine Needles are tuned in tight to infinity. Sports radio every night. Maggie and Perloff, your daily delight. In their words you find your life. From highlights to the breaking news, every take you can't refuse. In the chat he's always there with comments, questions, wisdom to share. Oh, Pine Needles, you're tuned in tight to infinity. Sports radio every night. Maggie and Perloff, your daily delight. In their words you find your life. When the games get tough and the stakes.
There's a YouTube legend, better take note. Jamie's in the chat and he's ready to gloat. Calls him like he sees him, don't need no filter. Two bum clowns, no knowledge, can't build a winner. Scrolling the comments, who's dropping the knowledge? It's Dr. Daly, straight out of Penn College. Maggie says that ankle looks rough. Perloff's like, nah, it's just a little scuff. But Daly's in the chat and he's got the facts. Forget your sprains, it's the patella that cracks. Dropping wisdom bombs, leaving no doubt. When that tendon goes, you're tapping out. Patella tendon snapping, it's way, way worse. Says Dr. Daly with a YouTube nurse. Forget that sprained ankle or a little bruise. When the tendon pops, you've got everything to lose. Perloff limps in.
Who's that name lighting up the stream? It's Pine Needle living the dream. Dropping hot takes a little bit of flair. Always in the chat like they own the air. Got a thing sharper than a pine tree tip. Dropping one-liners that really hit. Is it wisdom? Is it luck? Pine Needle's here and they don't give a truck. Pine Needle, king of the screen. Streaming the scene like a chat room machine. Dropping those comments, short and mean, but deep down we know you're a dream. Mystery lingers like needles on the ground. Nobody knows where Pine Needle is found. Are they from the mountains or just the net? All we know is we'll never forget. Stirring up chaos, but it's all in fun. Trolls beware, cause Pine Needle's won. A legend's born in the YouTube scroll. When Pine Needle's here, they take control. Pine Needle, king of the screen. Streaming the scene like a chat room machine. Dropping those comments, short and mean, but deep down we know you're a dream.
Break ends in 5 seconds.
We get back to the college football playoff bracket in just a moment, but if you'll indulge me. That was a brutal way for the Bills to lose yesterday. And they came out and played one of the worst first halves of football that I've seen. This felt like old Bills, like how they lost to the Ravens, Perloff, where the defense was just getting gashed. That was actually a little more by the run This was by Matthew Stafford, Sean McVay just tearing apart the Bills secondary, and Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp just having amazing days. And the Bills were powerless. I mean, they could not stop anything that the Rams were doing. And on the offensive side, at least in the first half, the Bills could not sustain a drive to try to give their defense a breather or try to keep pace. Now, they enter the fourth quarter down 17 points and find themselves only down 3. I mean, how the Bills came back in this game was because Josh Allen had to be the Superman of Supermen. I mean, you need a different superhero. I'll go to EJ on this one. I don't even know who's better than Superman, but that's what Allen had to be. And listen, Bills fans have had enough of this with Sean McDermott. Whenever it comes down to a situational moment where either the clock, the opponent, or the timeouts, or all of those working in concert present something that's not easy. It can be tricky to figure this stuff out. I'm not saying it's an easy in the moment, but how many times have the Bills come up short in these instances where you have the best player on the field? No doubt it was Josh Allen, and he was doing everything he possibly could. And because of some boneheaded coaching decisions, they lose this game when they could have stolen it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, they're 10-3. Has he made that many bad decisions this year?
This is cumulative through the years.
Right. But I thought this year's team was a little different.
So I did too, but I actually thought they were just going to lose this game, like not even have a chance at a comeback. And it's because Josh is having an otherworldly season.
Yeah, but I mean, also, too, you're giving Josh Allen a little more credit. How about the idiotic Rams defenders who kept on making stupid penalties, including that 4th and 15 pass interference, which even I could have avoided?
Yeah, but you know what? You've got to figure out that kept the drive alive. But if that's the other part too.
Yeah.
If the other team is letting you back in, you've got to take it. And I'll tell you what, this is how. And I know he had a second interview with North Carolina with UNC. This is how Belichick to the Bills becomes a thing, because there are very few coaches out there who are going to be candidates who can be good at situational football, right? And
I don't like the sound of this at all.
No, I'm just saying this is how the door gets cracked open for Belichick to come in and maybe unseat Sean McDermott. This is how it happens, because for all the coaching candidates out there, whether it's Ben Johnson or some of these other guys, we don't know what they're like in the big seat. And they could be just as bad at clock management. And Sean McDermott has he has no excuses. How many big games have you been in that have come down to this? It's calling timeouts when you shouldn't be calling them. It's not having 2 plays ready. It's calling the wrong play. It's the fact that the Bills, even though it would have been a very big long shot, you got to try to block that punt at the end of the game, not have 9 players on the field. Say what you will about Bill Belichick. Guys were organized for most of his 20 years in New England. They were organized. 3 phases working in concert.
Not at the end, though. At the end, they were a disaster.
Well, that's also because his roster sucked.
Yeah, but is he going to help this roster? Like, you're going to get rid of Joe Brady, who's found the magic formula for Buffalo, and bring in Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniels with Josh Allen? I feel like that sounds awful. It sounds so unentertaining.
Okay, but this is the problem. If you are watching the Bills and living and dying with them like I am, then you are waiting for a Sean McDermott mind fart at the end of a game.
But you're also, the other thing, too, is you're probably playing over your head. Look at your receivers. I mean, you just, I don't know that you're that great a team.
Amari Cooper is a good receiver. I don't know what you're talking about. And by the way, they had Keon Coleman and Dalton Kincaid were both hurt yesterday. So you have your second-round wide receiver and your first-round tight end who are supposed to be major pass catchers, and you have enough here from the receiving core. This is a different type of model.
Well, since you added Cooper midseason, you're saying, because I'm just saying that was a narrative coming into this season. Also, too, like your defense, they're good, but are they really Super Bowl level?
No, I think they're Super Bowl level, yeah, but no, listen, Tom Brady is saying they're like one of the great defense in the league. I don't know about that. I mean, I don't know. They're one of the great defenses, but the defense, I think, has been better than the sum of its parts, but they couldn't even get a pass rush yesterday, and that's the part that's littered with first and second round picks.
Yeah, and Von Miller did have one nice play. Actually, I was shocked at that.
Epinesa had a good shot, but they didn't have a consistent pass rush. Stafford had all day back there.
Well, they have been getting these flags. Like, they're the new Chiefs with flags, but they're going to play the Chiefs who get all the flags. So, because I think the officials definitely kept them hanging around last night.
Yeah, they did. But here's the other part, is that the Bills' defense has really thrived off takeaways. And yesterday, they were not even in position to be picking off Matthew Stafford. Like Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, there was no defender in the TV shot.
Are you kidding me? Those guys had more contested catches. Kupp never gets more than an inch of separation. He catches everything.
Tom Brady is saying these are throws and catches that are some of the easiest that will ever exist in the NFL. So, yeah, there were a couple contested catches. I'd freaking hope so. It's professional football. They shouldn't all be wide open, but it felt like it. Oh, my goodness gracious. Come on, Sean.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining.
Splat, 4 years in the stream, through the chaos and laughter, the wildest dream. You've seen Miraz stumble, you've seen Miraz fall. Droopy man boobs and chicken wings, he's done it all. From hoops in his pants to wings in his throat, every moment's a story, every mishap a note. But as the Twitch chat roared, one truth was clear: the biggest sound since Peter Bellotti ain't here. To wings in his throat, every moment's a story, every mishap a note. But as the Twitch chat roared, one truth was clear: the biggest stop since Peter Bellotti ain't here. 4 years of subs through highs and lows, from mislights and disasters to the chaos that grows. But through all the madness, let's be sincere: where in the world is Peter Bellotti this year? Sits empty, the mic collects dust, while Miraz chokes on chicken. We've lost our trust. 4 years of loyalty, of sticking around, yet Bellotti's nowhere, he can't be found. Oh, glorious splat, you've seen it all: the Twitch chat erupt, the rise and the fall. But No truth or disaster can quite compare to the longest track record of never being there.
$30 remaining. $15. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Maggie and Perloff on the Infinity Sports Network.
Trips out to the left, one to the right. And back to throw again. Rolling right. Gabriel is going to throw it downfield. Wide open. Catch made. 20. Tez inside of the 10. Tez at a 5. Touchdown, Oregon. Tez Johnson. Gabriel dangerously close to the line of scrimmage when he threw that ball. Got rid of it in time, and then Tez did the rest of the work.
The Oregon Football Radio Network with that call. Tez Johnson, massive game. 11 catches on 12 targets, 181 yards, and a touchdown. Oregon beats Penn State. They're the number 1 overall seed in the college football playoff bracket, Perloff. Yet they have one of the hardest roads, which I don't understand because they will have to face the winner of Ohio State, Tennessee.
Yeah. Was that, by the way, the highlight where he jumped over the guy? That was insane. He is, in a year of receivers, he is fantastic. I'm not sure there is a hard road. The only thing I'll disagree with is I'm not sure there is a hard road. Feels like anybody could beat anybody right now, based on the fact that anybody could beat anybody. Besides Oregon, who's really scaring you in this field?
Well, to me, it's not about that, right? It's about the first 4 matchups that we're going to get in 2 weeks that are going to be at the home fields of the higher seeds. So you're going to have Ohio State and Tennessee and Columbus. You'll have Texas and Clemson in Austin, Notre Dame and Indiana in South Bend, and you have Penn State hosting SMU at State College, Pennsylvania. And I just think for Oregon, as the undefeated number 1 overall seed, to get the winner of Ohio State, Tennessee doesn't really feel like a perk that the number 1 overall seed should enjoy. You go undefeated, number 1 seed. Don't you think you should be able to face a team that is not as highly ranked? Like, as we've been saying, what can be a tiny bit confusing about this is that there's a college football playoff ranking 1 through 25. That's not the same as the seeding. The seeding is different because they have this weird format where conference champions get a bye. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, this was all put in ink over the offseason, so there's nothing they could do about it. Yeah. And again, I think you and I disagree a little bit about the way it fell out. I think you're looking, maybe I'm putting words in your mouth, you're looking at Ohio State looming there and being like, why do they have to play Ohio State again? Or Tennessee, but yeah. But really, like, the double matchup against Ohio State does seem unfair. But I think number 7, Notre Dame, would be in the same boat. Like, if you had Notre Dame, Tennessee, they'd be playing the winner of Notre Dame, Tennessee. That would feel hard, too. So I'm not sure the committee could have sort of jury-rigged it any other way to help them. The structure was messed up that they aren't reseeding. And they will next year. I'm almost positive they're going to change the system. Well, they have to, but that doesn't help Oregon this year. Yeah. You know, that doesn't help them. It's like, oh, yeah, we're going to figure out all the kinks, so we're going to get all worked out just in time for Dylan Gabriel to be gone, and you're going to have to reload. And this is a special season for Oregon, and I feel like they've already had to play an extra game because of the Big Ten championship. Right. They didn't mail that in. They didn't rest on their laurels and say, "Oh, well, we know we've got a bye locked up, or we know we're in the bracket, so we'll just mail this in." They've done everything that the College Football Committee has asked them to do, and your reward is congrats. You either play a team you beat by 1 point in a controversial ending at your home field, or you get one of the best and brightest from the SEC this year. Yeah, I wouldn't worry about Tennessee. If Tennessee can, because they beat Alabama at home, but other than that, they didn't play anybody or beat anybody. Like, this is not, by the eye test, an overwhelming Volunteers team. So if they can knock off Ohio State, that's not a terrible matchup at all. I don't think Tennessee's offense can really hang with Oregon's offense. So Ohio State is a problem. But again, who is Ohio State? They seem to be getting worse. Well, I don't think Oregon wants to test that.
Well, they're going to have to.
Because they're going to have
Maggie,
all this time to get healthy, get themselves together. We asked this question after Ohio State lost to Michigan. Can you regroup? You still have a lot to play for. And they get some time off here to try to fix things.
Well, they have to play these teams eventually. Eventually, they're probably going to have to play Ohio State and Georgia. So they're going to have to beat the best of the best at a certain point. I think it's a very easy path for Penn State to get to the Final Four. But once they're there, eventually everyone's going to have to beat the good teams.
See, I think the bracket feels a little lopsided to me because on one side, you have the number 1 seed Oregon, who has Ohio State, Tennessee, Texas, all in their side of the bracket. And then on the other side, Georgia gets Indiana, Notre Dame, Boise, SMU, Penn State. It just does not feel like the way that the balance is on both sides of the bracket. It feels like it is unnecessarily unbalanced, and Oregon gets the short end of the stick here if you're going to just say on paper.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. But this is a structural problem. It has nothing to do with what the committee did over the weekend, in my opinion. They screwed up the way they set up the system.
Okay, but it's like Notre Dame hasn't played a lot of tough games. Indiana hasn't played a lot of tough games. The one that they did, they lost. We talk about Penn State. Who have they beaten? SMU did a great job in their conference schedule, but again, they don't have a lot of really signature wins. And that's what Georgia and Boise get the bye. I hurt for our people in Oregon today because I know that this is a special season and your reward is congrats, you might get Ohio State again.
I will say
that
two
just
things.
Seems like BS.
Notre Dame does, they keep on getting top recruiting classes under Marcus Freeman. They presumably have talent. We have no idea because they didn't play anybody this year.
They lost to Northern Illinois, and they're a 7 seed.
Right.
Come on.
But they're definitely I don't know. They're not a joke in this particular field. I would not take Notre Dame lightly. And then Penn State, obviously, they have all the talent in the world. They just have a coach who cannot get his team up for a big game. So I don't know that this Notre Dame and Penn State don't feel that much weaker than Tennessee. Except for the Alabama game, show me a game where Tennessee looked super impressive. It just doesn't exist.
I know, but see, I've been told that the SEC, it's just so much harder. Everything's so much tougher in the SEC.
Tennessee got an easier SEC schedule. But by the way, I would not dismiss Arizona State and the bye. They are playing like that. I don't want to see that team on my side of the bracket in a warm weather game because they're no joke either. I'm not sure Clemson or Texas gets past them.
Will be a neutral field, right?
Right. I'm just saying, it's not
a warm weather.
Yeah, Peach Bowl.
No, I'm saying Arizona State doesn't have the weather detriment. If they were the 12 seed, then they'd have to possibly go somewhere cold. So now you get a rested, fully loaded Arizona State team. I just think this is an incredible parity field. I think, except for Oregon, I think you have Oregon and 11 teams who all could beat each other.
As far as the weather is concerned, because we talked about that quite a bit, was not mentioned in my oddly specific predictions that it could be a factor in championship weekend. Not really. But this is the weather games you have to be keeping an eye out. Tennessee being Columbus. Not that it doesn't get cold in Tennessee, but that could be pretty frigid. And then SMU going to State College, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, but it's funny. Ohio State has all these receivers. They're kind of built for a warm weather. That's pretty funny. If we're looking ahead, you did say one of my oddly specific predictions was that Arch Manning would make a big play. I mean, they got to put him in, right?
He should have been in position to make bigger plays.
Yeah,
he won big one at the end of the game, but
Well, we're evaluating that side of the field. Let's put Arch Manning in Texas and then evaluate them because that would be a different team. You got to have a running quarterback.
And one of my oddly specific predictions was that Carson Beck was going to turn back into a pumpkin. I meant by throwing 3 interceptions. I did not obviously mean that he would get hurt. He takes a huge hit at the end of the first half in the Georgia game, gets knocked out of the game. So then Gunnar Stockton comes in. He played great until he threw an interception late in the game. Kind of felt very Carson Beck-ish. But Gunnar Stockton was excellent, I thought. And I was surprised watching him, man, why did Kirby Smart go to him sooner when Carson Beck was throwing 12 interceptions over in a three-game span? Why didn't we see more Stockton? Now, the kid got lit up, though, in the overtime. Oh, my goodness. That's one of those where I'm like, what are we doing? Did he even get checked out by one of the doctors on the sideline?
Well, he got taken out of the game because his helmet came off. So
for one play.
Right. I mean, we don't know. I don't know if he would have had to come in for right after that, or I don't know what happened.
This poor dude, his eyes are rolling back in his head as he's getting hit in the overtime. Like, all right, get out there. And to be fair, they scored, but oof, that was
By
hard
the way,
to watch.
I do not take that they should have put him for Carson. Carson Beck, I saw the stat, thrown 11 touchdowns and 0 picks in his last 3 games.
Well,
Obviously.
I'm saying in the middle of the season when Carson Beck couldn't find the ocean from the beach,
yeah,
he was dreadful for like 3 games in a row.
He was bad in the other Texas game. They won.
Yeah, they won that game handily.
I know, but he was terrible in it.
Yeah. Well, regardless, like this kid is good. I don't think Carson Beck at least will give you one good half.
Can I make one quick question or one point about Arch Manning?
Sure.
If I was a Manning family, I'm calling Sark today and being like, cut this out.
Put him in?
No. Cut out this Cam Newton, Tim Tebow running over people.
Oh, you think he's going to get hurt?
I mean, if I'm his family, I'm like, we didn't come here to Texas for you to use him like he's, Justin Fields on the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, H-back.
Yeah, like what's going on here? Now, for Texas, they absolutely should have used him more like that. I'm just saying, if I'm the Arch Manning family, I would be surprised if Arch doesn't get a text from them being like, hey, what's going on here?
Well,
I would text him and say.
He'll hit the portal if they don't like the way he's being used. Yeah.
No, they got to put him in. He's got to start, I think. I mean, Ewers does not look right. And also, too, like it's going to be a Tua situation. He's definitely coming in at some point. If this is close, he's taking over this job, I think.
But to EJ's point, Tua came in to throw the deep ball, not to run. Arch only comes in to run.
Well, he brought, I think they're going to bring in, they bench Hurts at halftime. I think they're looking at benching Ewers. Like they bench Ewers in the first Georgia game, right? I think they're going to bench him again. I think Ewers transfers or goes pro. I don't know that Ewers looks like a pro. I think he could transfer.
Well, it seems like he's just really hurt. I think so. And the other part, remember, they benched Ewers, but then they brought him back to start the second half in the first Georgia loss.
Right. So I think they're actually looking at it. I think they might want to play Arch, like full play Arch, not just do the packages.
Let's pick an upset out of these 4 games in the first round. So again, Ohio State plays Tennessee. The winner of that faces Oregon.
Yeah.
Texas plays Clemson. The winner of that plays Arizona State. Penn State plays SMU. Winner of that plays Boise. And Notre Dame plays Indiana. Winner of that plays Georgia.
I'll go first. I'm looking at SMU just because I feel like I know that right now they didn't end up as a top 10 team. I don't believe they were 11 in the college football playoff ranking. So it's not the death knell for James Franklin. But, playoff game, that might feel big enough for him to choke. Also, I kind of like the way SMU plays. Penn State hasn't necessarily seen this kind of offense that many times. I think that this is a dangerous game for Penn State.
I think a lot of people are going to be on that one. I think your logic is sound, but that's not where I'm headed. What were we just talking about? Texas. What is going on with the quarterback situation?
Yeah.
How is Ewers looking? And I don't think that Clemson, I'm not betting the mortgage on Clemson, but do I think they could go, again, into Austin? Do I think they could win this game? Dabo Swinney is coached in so many big games. Not that Sark hasn't. I think that it's possible Texas is on upset alert because you dive into Texas and their resume. Who have they played? Who have they beaten? Not Georgia.
They do have some talent. You could see the talent. That's an interesting one.
That would be my pick.
Clemson had South Carolina at home and couldn't put them away. And I think Texas is better than South Carolina. Yeah, it's not a bad one. Not at all. I don't trust Texas either. But I don't really trust Clemson. I feel like you'd have no idea what you're getting with that team. From quarter to quarter, I don't even think you know what you're getting with that team.
855-212-4227. Upset picks there. We're going to keep them coming. We got a lot of thoughts, opinions on this college football playoff bracket. Meanwhile, Big Friendly is our pal in California. Good morning, Big Friendly.
Good morning, Maggie Malone, EJ the EP, Nico, 411, a.k.a. Pop Pop, and the one, the only, Daddy Cool. Thank you for taking my call.
Big Friendly, you sound like Tom Brady from yesterday. You okay?
Hey, I'm trying to get over some stuff. That's why you ain't heard from me. So,
okay.
Daddy Cool. First of all, Magsy, when I come to your table, I understand you're the mother Don of all Dons. And I understand you can make us all find out what timeout's about. So I don't want to make no disrespect. Daddy Cool,
ouch.
I apologize. It took so long for me to get you the picture. And I should never mess with internet. I thought I ordered a jersey. I got a sweater.
That's all right. That's all right. You know, in
Common
hockey,
mistake.
they call the jerseys sweaters, so it's same.
Did you guys get the picture? I sent the email.
Oh, we did get the picture. Yeah, EJ's got it. EJ, will you throw that in the Slack channel, please?
Big Friendly, we haven't seen it yet. We wanted to wait to see it.
Okay, so we're going to reveal it. Well, we're going to reveal it. Perloff and I are going to see it at the same time when EJ throws this into our Slack channel.
Okay.
We're waiting. Technology.
Stand by.
Stand by. Okay. While we stand by,
Drum
Big Friendly, congratulations to your Rams yesterday.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Now, you take your time because I would love to see you all rammed up for a show.
Oh, the photo just came through. Oh, Friendly.
Now, Big Daddy Cool, am I not Big Friendly? Did the name not fit the man?
I see it. I think it's gorgeous.
It's a
But
little
did the
snug.
name not fit the man?
I think anything in that color green is just so beautiful. It makes up for the hat being the wrong size, and it brings out the green in your eyes. Honestly, chef's kiss.
love
You look
it.
amazing, dude.
Wait, Big Friendly, not to put you on the spot, do we have your permission to share this photo on our social media?
Ma'am, show it wherever you
All
want.
right.
That is yours.
Go to town, guys. Here you go, Kaplan, EJ, you got it. This, you know what, Friendly? I'm actually glad it was a sweater. It's like a hoodie. It's almost better than the jersey. Way to pay up. Way to be a man of your word. That's hilarious.
And before you let me go, Maggie.
Yeah.
Yesterday's game, and Perloff is correct. The Rams defense gave you guys the opportunities you have. Josh Allen, bona fide Clydesdale stud. What I watched yesterday was just, it was hard to root against him, even though I was rooting against him. But Perloff was correct. That 4th and 15, I do not know what Lake was thinking. Turn your head.
I mean, listen, the Bills gave it right back. And Friendly, thank you for the call. Congrats to your Rams. way to come through on the bet. That's awesome. That thing is tight and short.
He put on a shirt underneath it. I think it made it even worse, but it probably was better for everybody that there was a shirt underneath it. Big Friendly. Shout out to him. This is awesome.
This is very funny. Yeah, this is the thing. Late game management, you're down there at the 1. You got to sneak the ball in, but you don't actually need to call a QB sneak there personally. Like, quite frankly, They fell in love with the QB sneak yesterday. For some reason, and I get it's effective, but it looks way more painful than like when the Eagles do it. The Bills are not as good at it. And you've got all these plays on the play sheet there. And I know you don't think, Perloff, that the Bills have any good wide receivers, but they have enough when you're at the goal line.
Well, you got to throw it. Just freezes the clock. That was a huge mistake by Sean McDermott.
Huge mistake. And
But
so
I
they
do
end up
think,
having to
like,
call a timeout just to call another quarterback sneak.
This is not a game they should have won, though. Like, they should have lost. Like, the Rams gave it up. There's no doubt about it. The Rams were a desperate team who was Stafford was on fire. That was like, is Stafford faster? What is going on with him? Is he aging in reverse?
Made him. They gave him everything. They zone defense with Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. What do you think's going to happen?
What are you talking about? Those guys are amazing. Like, they're great. When Nakua's on the field, that's a great team. They're a really good team. Their defense is just too young and makes a lot of mistakes. Otherwise, I feel like if you get the defense 1 year older, with this offense, you could win a Super Bowl. But they have really dumb plays. Like, the hits out of bounds. Like, come on, you don't need that.
Oh, I mean, the Bills did that too, though. Deion Dawkins with a personal foul that moved back the extra point, 15 yards. Like, just dumb stuff also from the Bills. They should know better than that. But the worst was reserved for the head coach.
I think they have their own Josh Allen and Puka Nacua. He is just physically manhandling that defense.
Yeah,
He's
not
amazing.
the same. Not the same. Wait, Tom is in Florida as a frustrated Bills fan, as I see here, fed up with McDermott. Tom, they think I'm crazy that this opens the door for Belichick. Things like this, I think, open the door for McDermott to get replaced by Belichick, because at least Belichick, for all of his flaws, would have the Bills organized at the end of the game.
Yeah, good morning, guys. I don't normally do a lot of calling to my sports talk shows, and I may be a little nervous, but I had to call today, and the only reason McDermott still has a job is because Josh Allen's a Superman.
Yeah.
And Tom Brady pointed it out last night in the game, thankfully, like 5 times. And he said, I'm not trying to beat a dead horse, but everybody knows you cannot run the ball right there. Roll Josh out, give him a run pass option. He can throw it away. the clock can stop. It was just terrible. It's terrible. And I don't understand how McDermott can keep making those mistakes. So I don't know if it opens the door for Belichick or not, but it certainly needs to open the door for somebody that knows what they're doing at the end of the game.
Yeah, and Tom, you didn't sound nervous at all. You sounded totally coherent. You're making a lot of sense, and I think Bills Mafia is with you on this one. Like, it's just enough. It's enough with having Josh Allen do everything he possibly can to keep you in the game, in a game that Perloff's right. Bills probably had no business even coming back in that game, and they did because of Allen. And it's just so frustrating when you feel like you've got the best player and he's playing like the best player on the field, and it's your coach and the boneheaded play calling and things like that. This is not Josh Allen's interceptions. This is not him fumbling. This is none of that stuff. They fell in love with the quarterback sneak yesterday and couldn't get it out of their mind.
I also thought, and I think you tweeted this, that it didn't feel like the Bills committed to the run, where the Rams, with all the passing, did commit to the run a little more, and you can run on the Bills. So I think that, to me, that's my big worry. Forget the end of the game coaching. Like, I feel like somebody's going to try and run it right down their throat.
Well, it's worked. I mean, it worked with the Ravens, and the time of possession was so lopsided, basically until midway through the third quarter, when the Bills actually, to their credit, in the second half, they did get back to the run. But in the first half, they didn't. They're going for these explosive plays that weren't there.
Yeah.
And so it was just miserable.
I mean, you could complain a little bit on the game-winning Puka Nacua touchdown. There was
a false start.
No, what about the pick play by Cooper Kupp before the ball got to him? Almost like took out the quarterback. I was like, wait, how did he get away with that?
I don't want to be a blame the refs person. That's why I'm not going to the false start. But the false start was egregious. Even who was Mike Pereira, whoever the Fox rules analyst. Yeah. It was clear as day, but I know that the Bills did get a little help earlier in the game.
Oh yeah, I mean that's a Bills' real superpowers. If you get within 8 yards of Josh Allen, the flag is thrown.
Well, Josh is clearly taking acting lessons from his fiancée, Haley Steinfeld, but he's been really good with that throughout his career. Listen, he sells the call.
Yeah, I know.
That's part of his job. You don't think Mahomes does the same thing?
I know, but you're not going to get that call against the Chiefs in the playoffs.
Don't I know it? 855-212-4227. And by the way, blew their shot yesterday, most likely at the number 1 seed.
I don't think it's over. I think the Chiefs have 2 losses in them. I think the Bills have to beat the Lions, which is hard.
Yeah, great. Here's what you need. Go into Detroit and beat the best team in the NFL.
I think you can.
That's it, guys. That's all.
I mean, Detroit's definitely come back to earth a little bit. This is going to be a last-minute decision by Sean McDermott that you're going to be screaming about after that game.
Back to earth. They just swept the Packers.
Yeah, I mean, they've definitely looked mortal. 5 picks against Houston. Like they're not.
They won that game.
Yeah, I know. They definitely are not like peaking. Like early in the season they were. I think you have a shot against them.
855-212-4227. Love it when my fellow Bills fans call in after a frustrating loss. I'm with you guys. I'm with you. I'm right there beating the drum. Okay, lots more to do from the college football playoff, our first ever 12-team bracket. Coming up later in the hour, Ralph Russo from The Athletic is going to join us, get some experts up in here to talk about whether or not Alabama did, in fact, get snubbed. M&P.
Down in San Antonio, there's a man you should know. Kevin Lamelli puts on quite a show. 50 push-ups, 50 sit-ups with your squats in a row. A workout machine, he's got that morning glow. Kevin Lamelli, breakfast king. Exact time, hear the sun up sing. Sometimes it's oatmeal, he's keeping it clean. But every single morning he's living the dream. Tunes into Maggie and Perloff on YouTube each day. Comments rolling in, got plenty to say. But there's one thing missing, it's becoming a trend. Where's Manny at? Didn't he just begin? Like his mentor Balani, he's coasting the crew. Consistently MIA, what's a viewer to do? Kevin Remember, breakfast king. Back exact time, hear the sun sing. Sometimes it's oatmeal, he's keeping it clean. But every single morning he's living the dream. Tunes into Maggie and Perloff Perloff on YouTube each day. Comments rolling in, got plenty to say. But there's one thing missing, us becoming a trend. Where's Manny at? Didn't he just begin? Like his miserable life, he's ghosting the crew. Consistently MIA, what's a viewer to do? Down in San Antonio, the tacos are divine. Kevin's shouting down, Wemby's right there in line. He says, Perloff, come join us, or we all know the score. Andrew hits some drives, he ain't leaving his door. Tacos and Wemby, it's a Texan delight. But Perloff won't show, not even for a bite. Wheelchair squats, he makes it look easy, breaking a sweat while others stay breezy. Meanwhile, Manny's got a new full-time gig, but missing work like Peter, it's getting big. Remember breakfast king, pancakes stacked high, hear the syrup sing. Sometimes it's oatmeal, he's keeping it clean, but every single morning he's living the dream. So raise your fork to Kevin, the man of the hour. With tacos and pancakes, he's got all the power. San Antonio's hero, he's making life sweet. With Wemby on deck and a table of treats. And Perloff, stay home, you'll never make the drive. But Kevin's out here living large and alive.
One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Back on Maggie and Perloff. Show bet brewing. Interesting show bet. The Sean McDermott lasts the season if they don't win the Super Bowl. Meanwhile, in my team, the Philadelphia Eagles, they're ready to fire the coach after a close win over Carolina. Just show how things are going in Philly.
I've never seen a team angrier after a win.
I mean, come on, dude. Throw the football. It's 2024. I know you're trying to get Saquon the MVP, but it's the Panthers. Whatever.
You won the game, and your wide receiver, your star wide receiver, is complaining nonstop. You don't think that's a bad sign?
The Panthers had first of all, Bryce Young didn't throw the ball more than 4 yards downfield on any play, and they still almost got the win when Leggett dropped the ball at the goal line. And did you guys see the story? And Andrew Bogusch is here about the guy who bet $3 million on the money line for them to win to just get $400,000 back. I think that's what ruined the Eagles too. You can't go out and bet $3 million on your team because karma is real and the universe knows that. If that guy had lost that, if Leggett had caught that ball and the Panthers had won that game, that'd be the worst bet of all time.
I did see that they said that during the game. Sometimes those things sound fake. I know they're probably real.
Well,
but
I mean, the line
idiot is out there betting $3 million on the Philadelphia Eagles ever?
Well, Vegas lists the money line, so somebody must be betting them. Yeah, and also, too, it's the Panthers. Of course, that time seems like the safest bet ever.
Wait.
They just did not show up at all on Sunday.
By the way, didn't we get the same story when the Chiefs played the Panthers? And
yeah,
that
but
game
the
came
Chiefs
down to the wire.
No, the Chiefs had game control over that. That was totally different.
They won 30-27.
Yeah, Mahomes needed to drive down the field to get a field goal to win.
They were losing in the fourth quarter. I think the same story happened. And if that's the same bettor, then you are just a glutton for punishment. Or two, if it's someone different, like learn from the Chiefs, you're going to be sweating this out.
Yeah, I don't know how the Eagles, you have arguably a top 3 receiver and you're throwing to Grant Calcaterra on every down. You got to get A.J. Brown 10 targets in a game or you're not even trying. This was a wake-up call. I almost wish they had lost because this was a huge wake-up call to the offensive staff. You got to really be a little more creative than what you did.
I think it was also maybe not respecting the opponent. The Panthers
lost
30-27 to the Chiefs. They lost 26-23 to Tampa Bay. And then they lost yesterday 22-16. They've been better. And Bryce Young's been playing really well.
Yeah. How about some respect for Bryce Young, who continues to play solid?
I agree. I now 100% think that they are not taking a quarterback in the draft next year.
Oh, my God. He was so non-threatening yesterday.
Just almost threw the game-winning touchdown. You just said.
Did you watch the game?
Through the hands.
Did he
of
ever
your
throw
wide
the ball?
receiver.
What was his longest? They scored 16 points. And what was his longest pass?
The Eagles' defense was supposed to be one of the best.
You guys
in
were
the
really
league.
impressed with Bryce Young yesterday?
I've been impressed with him for a month.
And by the way, they were not that close in the Chiefs game. The Chiefs were up the whole game, and they just went to sleep like they always do.
I love it. It's never the opponents. It's never it's never, the Chiefs let them back into the game. It's
the Chiefs absolutely, totally fell asleep in that game. That was the Carolina game. I literally, you could see Mahomes yawning on the sideline when they were up 27-14. No, I was not wildly impressed. Do you think the Panthers offense was a little non-threatening? I thought man, the Eagles got to put this game away because they're just letting them hang around.
It was a low-scoring game. That's just what happened. Let's get to Bogusch. He's got headlines for us on this very busy Monday.
They're all sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Protect your family, your phone, your furry friends with life, electronic device, and pet health insurance. The Mets have reportedly signed Juan Soto through age 59 season. It's a 15-year deal. Said to be worth $765 million. There's a signing bonus of $75 million. No deferrals and an opt-out after 5 years for Soto. The Athletic says the Mets can negate that opt-out by giving Soto a $4 million annual raise. That would push the total value to $805 million. OMG.
Man, and honestly, worth every penny.
Feels
Can already
like it,
tell.
doesn't it?
Yeah, bargain. Mets got a bargain. And on the flip side, for the Yankee fans out there who are coast to coast and all over this great world and nation of ours, your team blew it.
Ha ha.
Well, they blew it because this was only about money. And you're the Yankees. You print it. And I know it's not George Steinbrenner there anymore, but it's still us Steinbrenner. And you still own the crown jewel franchise in North America sports, maybe the world. If it's just about money, the fact that you got outbid is embarrassing for someone who was clearly so important to your team last year. It is just, if you're a Yankee fan, you got to be beside yourself.
I feel like it's going to work out fine.
It hasn't for the Yankees.
Well, I mean, they couldn't buy a World Series before, and honestly, paying up for Soto was not going to guarantee anything anyway.
But what changed last year? They had Soto, and what happened?
They got a bunch of easy opponents in the postseason?
Which they could have lost to without Soto with protection for Judge.
It wasn't Stanton really,
or
too?
Soto first and then Judge protecting him. But you know what I'm saying. That lineup was crazy.
Yeah, but that had nothing to do with really was it Soto the reason they advanced? Or?
Soto was a huge part of that entire
did
season.
he hit a huge home run against Cleveland?
But it was really one. Did Stanton get red hot? Or
Stanton was awesome.
Yep.
Right.
But they've had Stanton for years and they haven't won. And they haven't been to the
they
World
didn't win
Series.
with Soto either. I'm telling you.
They got closer than they ever had. since 2009.
Do you not like having Bryce Harper on your team?
I do.
Okay. But we can't like Juan Soto?
No, you can. But the Mets have a history of signing big deals that implode in their face.
I'm well aware. Thanks for the history lesson.
There's a book called the worst team money can buy.
Yeah.
Well, wait a second. The 1986 Mets were built around Keith Hernandez and Gary Carter, who they both acquired.
Yeah.
Why can't
Wait,
Fred
Nico,
Van
you're
Lindor
telling
and
us
Juan
about the
Soto be next-
1986 Mets?
Who told you about that? Your
Carter.
grandfather?
Nico was born in 2002.
Wait, but actually, I'm very curious. What do you mean by that? So,
Like, those two guys
Free
were not
agents.
drafted by the Mets. They brought them in from other teams.
Yeah. But then came Vince Coleman and the aforementioned Bobby Bonilla and Mo Vaughn. And more recently, Justin Verlander and Max Scherzer. There's Jason Bay.
Today's
for,
not the
what's
day
in
for
giggles.
that.
No.
Today's not the day for that. Today
Yeah.
is the day because Francisco Lindor took a minute, but he's working out pretty well.
Right, that was
and
$300 million well spent.
They gave him a lot of money. That was a trade. It's a little bit different. The Mets, we get to be excited today as Mets fans.
Yeah.
I just know that there are way more Yankee fans in this world because that brand is so strong. And why is that brand built? On never losing to little brother in these types of situations. And now you have. That's got to be maddening for you.
I'm just curious. Okay. Just let me make this clear. The New York Yankees brand was built on not losing to the Mets.
No, it was
wasn't
dominance.
the 26 World Series. It was
Dominance. And they don't lose out on free agents. They didn't lose out on free agents for like 20 years.
well, yeah. I mean, it's been obviously been the Dodgers the last 5 years.
Listen, the Yankees have had a mystique. And it's
That's
things
long
like
gone.
this
that's the point.
that chip
Yeah.
into that mystique.
Yeah, I mean, George died. And honestly, I was thinking like, wow, is this Yankees fan base going to survive? They're just another team now, right? I feel like the Dodgers are the new Yankees in a way, and now the Mets are trying to hone in on the Dodgers. Like that's the competition.
My point.
Yeah.
Which is why you should be pissed if you're a Yankee fan.
And I still feel like some random team is going to get through the National League next year. It's not going to be my Phillies or your Mets. It'll be like
Well, we'll see what happens.
the Giants all of a sudden get red hot or something. Baseball's funny. You know you can't buy a World Series. That's my only point.
Right, except for the Dodgers, like 2 months
Just
ago.
did that. They just bought
Well,
one.
it's funny. But they bought that World Series and their whole pitching staff got hurt and they were winning with bullpen games.
Yeah.
And then Shohei, their big ticket, couldn't do anything because he hurt his shoulder. It's just not a straightforward thing. You guys could totally be excited, but I'm just saying there's a lot of Mets in that could happen in the future.
This guy. The
Look, I
jealousy.
remember us signing Rick Porcello and Dylan Betances being like, ooh, maybe we could do something next year. Like, I'm sorry. Like, we signed Juan
Michael
Soto.
Wacha.
Yeah, Michael Wacha. Like, some of the bottom of the barrel guys that Mets have been signing before Cohen got here. Like, I'm all in right now.
Don't you guys already have the number one payroll?
Well, a lot of that money is gone because of Scherzer and Verlander.
Yeah, those albatrosses.
But I mean, listen, Nico's right. You guys did acquire Gary Carter,
Yeah.
who got the highest paid
Hey.
contract, which was $18 million over 9 years.
By the way, we always talk about how young people today have no sense of history or sports history. Here's Nico bringing you receipts on the 86 Mets like he was calling into WFAN back in 86 with Jerry Seinfeld.
And by the way, like
Nico's
you're
like
like
19 years old and he gets it.
that's a team that had Strawberry and Gooden, whatever. Your point doesn't even actually make that much sense.
Oh,
But
it
go ahead.
100%
It
does.
does.
Adding those two guys those were the final pieces.
Yeah.
Right, but
That's
you
what made
had
the
the
difference.
homegrown super duper stars.
Exactly.
But they needed the veteran presence. They needed Gary Carter. They needed Keith Hernandez.
Who are the homegrown super duper? Who are the Darryl Strawberry and Dwight Gooden of this team?
Pete Alonso.
Pete Alonso,
Alonso.
Vientos.
And Vientos.
And Francisco Lindor is not homegrown, but, he's been here
he's the
now
captain.
long enough.
Yeah.
And the point now is they have some guys coming who they need to be homegrown stars to balance out the expenditure of Soto and whatever else they do this offseason.
So Mark Vientos is a prime career Doc Gooden. Okay.
No. You asked who are the guys
homegrown?
now.
Yeah, who's
Vientos is the
homegrown
guy
stars?
now. And
Yeah,
by the
those
way,
are the
he
homegrown
eviscerated
stars.
your Phillies.
But he's not Gooden and Strawberry.
No.
He's a rookie. What do you want from him?
I'm just saying those guys were like transformative MLB. They were like
They're awesome. I know.
Yeah.
And Vientos was their second best hitter basically in an entire postseason.
I mean, he was legitimately awesome in his postseason and the regular season. I mean, I don't know if he's Darryl Strawberry like that. I don't want to say that, but he was tremendous this year. Like, I don't know what you want me to do.
This is just Perloff trying to rain on our parade today, guys. Don't give him any mind. 855-212-4227. Just a little jealous. A little jelly. Just feeling a little green-eyed monster. Kelly Green, not just the Eagles color. Also Perloff's face right now.
I mean, listen, I didn't know that you guys had the new number one slugger in all of baseball and Vientos. So now I'm really scared.
Talk
He's
your
like
smack.
Yeah.
He
Let me ask
was
you
a
a question,
difference
by the
maker
way.
last year.
Who are you going to for the Golden at Bat if that comes in? Is it Soto or is it a matchup dependent?
It depends on the pitcher, yeah.
What a great problem to have.
Well, it's
By the
good.
way,
Like, I think
Manfred
that's
says
part of the
that
money, too. Like, you want that slugger for the Golden at Bat. I honestly thought about that last night.
The Golden at Bat's not happening.
Manfred said it's not happening now.
Yeah, what does he know?
Nothing, and Maggie. The answer is nothing.
855-212-4227. Bogusch. Sorry, we got to cut that short. We've got Ralph Russo from The Athletic coming on to break down the college football playoff bracket. Ralph is an expert in this area. We'll get into all the nuts and bolts with him next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. "45 seconds remaining. "30 seconds remaining. "15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back. Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff. The inaugural 12-team college football playoff bracket is here in all of its glory. And Ralph Russo of The Athletic is joining us to break it all down. Ralph, good morning. What a weekend.
Morning. Yeah, amazing. I thought you guys were having me on to talk about Juan Soto.
We'll get to that. We're all celebrating while Perloff is crying into his Philadelphia Phillies jersey. First, let's do the Alabama SMU of it all, because that obviously was one of the big controversies. We'll get to Oregon in a minute, but Alabama, SMU, Alabama out, SMU still in. They lose on a walk-off field goal to Clemson in the ACC championship game. Did the committee get it right?
So, I wrote a column yesterday because I think somebody needed to come to the defense of poor old Alabama. Yes, I compared it to arguing for tax breaks for Elon Musk and Warren Buffett, right? Like, it doesn't feel great to be the defender of Alabama in the SEC because they always kind of get their way. But I think if you wanted to be sort of left brain analytical, you'd say, hey, like a lot of these power ratings have Alabama ahead. All the strength of schedule metrics have Alabama substantially playing a better schedule than SMU. I know we don't love the hypotheticals about what Vegas says, but, about a 6-point favorite, 5-point favorite. So again, I think if you want to look at sort of just data points here, it's hard to not say Alabama deserved better. I think if you're right-brained, a little more emotional, you look at how could you leave SMU out after the way they lost, right? There's also another component of this. So I don't know if I'm giving you a yes, they got it right, or no, they got it wrong. It's also a little bit of like the SEC and Alabama especially have gotten the benefit of the doubt in the playoff system when it was 14 every time. They always get the benefit of the doubt, especially last year when they bumped out Florida State. To sort of defend, to be the one rushing to defend the worst Alabama team of the last 20 years, the one that is touting its strength of schedule but lost to 2 6-6 teams on its schedule. I get it. I think my right brain was very comfortable leaving SMU in the field and not bending over backwards for this Alabama team. But again, the SEC needed a champion, so I rushed in there.
Do you think there'll be any repercussions? It's going to be a long off season. Do you think the SEC is going to threaten the committee? I don't even know what they can do, but do you think that something's going to change this off season?
So I think they might tweak some things this offseason as far as the format, which I think we might get into in a second. So here's what I would say. There's a lot of threats coming out of the SEC about, well, why play tough games? Well, I mean, why play tough non-conference games? Well, you lost in your conference, right? Like none of this has to do with your non-conference schedules. And frankly, most SEC non-conference schedules are 3 cupcakes and 1 good game, right? So enough with your threats. That said, I think despite what we saw, like no matter what we saw yesterday, eventually the SEC and the Big Ten are going to throw their weight around and probably just demand and take more automatic bids in this system. So Again, your threats are idle because I know what you're planning to do anyway, right? You're planning, like, regardless of what happened, you're planning to assert yourself more in this system, probably in 2026 when the new contract kicks in.
Ralph Russo, college football writer for The Athletic, is joining us now. It's just, to make good on these threats, like who's really going to tell the committee what to do? Because we're being told that it's former coaches, it's distinguished people who, would have their own thoughts about this. I think the TV networks would be the only people who could really throw their weight around here, because they could say, listen, we purchased a product and we are expecting you to deliver on giving us whatever you want, 4 SEC teams and 4 Big Ten teams, or whatever you want to, however you want to slice it.
But part of me is like, are we really, like, are the ratings really going to tank because there's one fewer SEC team? Like, that's the pivot point. Like, we don't have 4 SEC teams in here, the whole thing is going to collapse. The other part of it is, too, you mentioned, like, the committee, because I always get into some of these, like, I think it's a little silly, some of these conspiracy theories. You know who's on that committee? Remember Randall McDaniel, the great guard from Minnesota?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, he's one of the people on that committee. Jim Grobe, the former Wake Forest coach. Gary Pinkel, why do these people care about ESPN's ratings? And why do you think these people care about trying to conspire for one conference or the other? So it ends up being a little bit of a silly argument. I do think there might also be a push towards making this process a little more metric based. So it takes a little bit of the subjectivity out of it and maybe leans more towards strength of schedule and things like it emphasizes those things more. So there will definitely be tweaks coming out of this. But again, the idea that, like, well, we didn't get our way, so we're going to blow up the system, that just rings hollow, because frankly, I think you were planning on doing that anyway.
Ralph, what about, you mentioned other possible changes. Do you think the seeding system will change?
Yeah, so, and it's also interesting you have to note this. When this playoff format, this 12-team bracketed conference champion preference, this whole thing was created, it was created in 2019, 2020, unveiled in 2021. There was a Power 5. Texas and Oklahoma were in the Big 12. USC and Oregon, there was a Pac-12 this was created with the idea that 5 or 6 conference champions made a lot of sense. It was 6 and 6. It wasn't 5 and 7. It was 6 and 6 in terms of and giving those teams buys made a lot of sense, because if you looked at the history of the playoff, more often than not, within that top 5 or 6 teams, there would be 4 or 5 conference champions. So it was a lot more intuitive. It followed the path of what the playoff had been producing. Conference realignment blew all that up. So again, that's not really the system's fault. So yes, this is janky. This is weird to have teams ranked 10th, 12th, and 16th, like, fighting for buys. That needs to be fixed in some way, shape, or form, because what you end up getting is, oh, am I better off being 5? Am I better off being 6? Then, as you alluded to, number 1 Oregon has to play Tennessee or Ohio State in the second round.
Yeah, Ralph, we only have about a minute or so left, but I mean, how upset should Oregon and their fans be over how this all shook out there? The undefeated team, the only one left, the number 1 seed, and congrats, you get the winner of Ohio State, Tennessee, which might be the hardest matchup.
Yeah, it ain't great, but I would also say that, listen, you're going to have to beat these teams eventually. So I think if you're thinking of what's the best way to get to the semis, yeah, there are other teams that have a better path to the semifinals, but if you want to win a championship, you're going to have to go through some of these teams at some point. So I get it, not perfect, but, listen, it's also hard to win an extra game. Like, you're also opening yourself up to upsets and injuries to win an extra game.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that the committee saying, we just rank 1 through 25 and let the chips fall where they may. It's like, well, maybe it needs to be a little more thought to that when it comes to rewarding the number 1 seed for getting through the season undefeated and all that.
Yeah. And I would just say, again, like, not the committee's fault. That the committee's job was the rankings. The format was created by the commissioners with this idea of the old conference realignment in mind. And so, like I said, that's not really the committee's fault. They were tasked with the job. They did that job. The problem is the commissioners blew the whole thing up by doing all this realignment stuff. Going back to, by the way, the SEC and the Big Ten.
Yeah. We can sneak in 5 seconds. You have an upset for the first round picks, Ralph. Who do you think is most vulnerable?
I would say SMU against Penn State. I don't know if I would necessarily pick that, but if you're looking for an upset, SMU's got a lot of speed. I'd be interested to see how that matches up against Penn State.
Ralph, love reading you in The Athletic. Thank you so much for doing this on a very busy morning, I'm sure. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate that.
Well, there's a clear lesson here. It's all the Pac-12's fault, as always.
Blame the Pac-12.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I never really thought about that. Yes, if there were Power 5, then this seating wouldn't look so weird.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's why we have Ralph on, because he makes great points for us and for our audience. So huge thank you to Ralph Russo from The Athletic. Coming up every Monday, we do the NFL in 60. Every game recapped in 60 seconds.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Maggie and Perloff on the Infinity Sports Network.
Winchester snaps it. Placement is down. Wright's kick is up. And the kick is good! 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 And the Kansas City Chiefs do it again. The third kicker this season to have a walk-off field goal.
Chiefs radio. Only the Chiefs could be down to their third string kicker, and the dude is nailing game winners against a division opponent.
Nailing?
Well,
He
doinked.
doinked an extra point.
You know, actually, it's funny because they conveniently left that out of the Chiefs part of the call. But yeah, the dude doinked it. Actually, that's so Chiefs. Of course, there would doink in. You know, any other franchise that doinks way out, and of course, everything comes up Chiefs again.
Yeah, I mean
Welcome
that must have been the most anxiety-provoking winning field goal in Chiefs history. It was so close. Like, it looked so... I thought it was way off when he kicked it.
Yeah, well, they're down to the third string kicker. I mean, this guy was kicking for the San Francisco 49ers until he got hurt trying to make a tackle. Remember when that whole debacle happened? So, again, Chiefs be chiefin'. And the big thing about this was the Bills losing earlier in the day really cracked the door open now for the Chiefs. Now they have a 2-game lead on the number 1 overall seed. I know they have won the Super Bowl by having to be not a wild card, but having to go on the road. But Perloff, this is not that dominant of a Chiefs team. Home field could mean more to this iteration of the Chiefs than it ever has in the dynasty.
Yeah, I think there's a long way to go for them to get this home field. They already lost a tiebreaker to your Bills. I just think the fact that they're playing with everybody, like the Broncos almost beat them, the Raiders definitely should be the Las Vegas Raiders. And last night, a beat up. This was not a full strength Chargers. They were right there with them too. So they play Pittsburgh in Week 17 on that weird Wednesday game.
Yep.
So
weird Christmas.
Yeah, that weird Christmas Wednesday game. So if they lose that game, I mean, this is gonna be tough because I think Pittsburgh and Buffalo are right on their tail.
That's true. Pittsburgh with a dominant performance yesterday over the Cleveland Browns. Let's get to our NFL in 60.
Maggie and Perloff take you around the league, recapping this weekend's football action. Time for NFL in 60.
All right, we do this every Monday. Give you a little taste of everything that went down yesterday. Don't worry if you're listening. We will get back to the college football playoff and all of the college football news. Do not worry about that. We got you covered in all areas. Okay, EJ, you give us a team. We'll tell you the recap.
Okay, Perloff asked if I cared about this game, and I did not. Dolphins beat the Jets in overtime, 32-26. Jonnu Smith, the star of overtime, 3 catches, including the touchdown.
Yeah, but the Dolphins are kind of technically still in it, so it's an important game. It's not like the Giants Saints to jump ahead. Like, there was meaning in this game, and I thought Aaron Rodgers again looked pretty good. I mean, honestly, if the Jets could have had that all year long, I think they would have taken it.
Totally disagree. Giants Saints was way more important because the Giants are trying to get the number 1 pick in the draft. This game was just, all right, Dolphins are going to sneak in the playoffs and lose, and the Jets are going absolutely nowhere. However, a few more 300-yard games from Rodgers, maybe he comes back, or probably better for Rodgers, finds another suitor on a team that is better and a team that will say, we're an Aaron Rodgers away.
Show bet? he's definitely coming back. And he looked pretty good to me. It looked like he had finally some chemistry with Wilson.
Let's go to one of these terrible games we saw this weekend. How about Jaguars beating the Titans 10-6? How about screwing up the tank? Mac Jones, 2 picks, but still leading the team to a win.
I mean, do we have to talk about this game? This was brutal. But yeah, no, this is the bit. NFL in 60. Jags scoreless until the fourth quarter where, Mac Jones, who most people I think don't even know is still playing. But my biggest thing about the Titans is this going to be a one and done for Brian Callahan? I don't think it should be, but they are dreadful, and they're even worse at home.
Well, he's kind of like Zach Taylor, who I think it was 2-14 his first year and made the Super Bowl not long after that. So you probably should give him a chance.
To be fair, he has Will Levis as his quarterback, and he's dreadful.
Jags don't need a tank, though. Like, they're fine. Like, what's the difference? I don't think you're going to get a huge haul to trade up to number 1 necessarily. So they're 2 or 3. They'll get the guy they need.
All right, it was a weak homecoming for Kirk Cousins, who threw 2 picks, which is half of the picks he threw last week, but the Falcons still lose to the Vikings 42-21. Sam Darnold throws 5 touchdowns in this game.
I mean, first of all, the game wasn't a blowout. It was tied at the end.
Game.
It was tied at the end of the third quarter. Game. But, I mean, we got to start talking about, like, Sam Darnold is one of these stories of the year. They still barely ever play winning teams. I mean, the Falcons are not a winning team now. The Vikings have this strange record 11-2 despite beating nobody. Sam Darnold sure looks awesome, though, to me, Maggie.
I just don't understand how they don't go to Penix here. And again, the Falcons' defense is also bad. So I'm not putting this all on Cousins, but you get outscored 21-0 in the fourth quarter. And it's just, it's so all bad, just even to shake it up. I'm wondering if Penix is not looking good in practice or something like that. Is that the reason? Because what's the loyalty to Kirk Cousins? You signed him and literally drafted his replacement 3 weeks later.
You paid a ton for him, though. I kind of get that. What about that one-handed pick by Byron Murphy? That was sick, too.
One of the plays of the year.
All right, there were boos in the stands, but not a lot of much happened in this game. But the Saints beat the Giants 14-11 on a blocked field goal of my number 1 in power rankings for tank commander, Graham Gano.
Did you say booze? Nope.
Boob.
Yeah, apparently a Giants player gave free tickets to an OnlyFans woman entrepreneur who was given the free access to flash the Saints to distract them. Didn't work because they definitely focused on that final special teams play where they blocked the game-winning field goal.
Derek Carr broke his other hand, his opposite hand. You shut him down, but his tryout for next year, like, I'm very curious where he goes. I would take Derek Carr. I'm back on the Derek Carr bandwagon. Because don't judge the Saints team. They're not even trying.
Okay, let's go to Philly, where Perloff's Eagles survived a late scare from the Panthers. Eagles win 22-16.
Yeah, I mean, basically, the Eagles lost by 3 touchdowns in the spiritual sense here. This was a debacle of a disaster. Team sleepwalk through this game and almost lose it, even though some unlucky bettor put a $3 million money line bet on them. This game was terrible for the Eagles. Again, you guys are like, Bryce Young looks so good. I was like, did he look good? Because I didn't think he looked good. 19 for 34, 191, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. A big chunk of that was in sort of prevent defense time. So I'm not scared of Bryce Young.
Do you realize where the bar is for Bryce Young?
The guy has 7 touchdowns and 7 picks on the season.
He's playing with nobody.
And also,
he's got Adam Thielen, who looks unstoppable right now.
Do you realize he looks like Joe Montana compared to the old version of himself from last year? We're judging Bryce on Bryce, not Bryce on Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're going into the season with him next year, is anyone going to pick the Panthers to do anything?
No, but he's getting better. Listen,
You might get stuck having to pay this guy then. Like, I don't understand your future with Bryce Young.
I don't think you're going to be close enough to the top. Where are they right now? Are they 4th or 5th?
Yeah.
Okay, so are you in this quarterback class?
No.
What are you doing?
You might not have a choice, but it still feels like the Bryce Young love is a little over the top, considering like he never throws a ball more than 3 yards down the field.
Well, then maybe these really good teams should stop letting Bryce Young,
score
throw the
13
ball all
points
over
against them.
Well, they're in these games, which is very different from last year. One other thing here. Sorry, I know you're hitting the music. One other thing. What got into Adam Thielen?
Bryce Young got into him. That's what happened.
Sure. Okay. All right. That's as good as explanation as I've heard because I've got nothing else.
Let's go to an NFC North battle. The Steelers got their revenge, 27-14. More Jameis Winston picks, more good play from Russell Wilson.
Yeah, listen, the Steelers are a threat. I told you guys this weeks ago. I believe I got laughed out of the show when I said that they are a Super Bowl contender. They are. And I think Russ is coming back. And the Jameis Winston, didn't look as good. It never looks great, but this did not look sharp at all.
Like when he threw it to that 325-pound guy, like 4 feet in front of him. Yeah. I don't know. Like, so this win made you think that Pittsburgh is a threat to come out of the AFC?
They're 10-3. I mean, this is a division that's tough. It's challenging.
Yeah, I mean, like, again, they got fat on really, really bad teams. They did beat the Ravens, but they always beat the Ravens. I think they're still a bit of an unknown. I'm not ready to call them bona fide contender yet.
Aiden O'Connell was carted off the field in this game. The Bucs beat the Raiders 28-13, 3 touchdown passes from Baker Mayfield.
This thing was a, that gif of the dumpster that's on fire going down the river?
Yeah.
This game was a dumpster. It was so poorly played by both teams. I think the Bucs probably played down to the Raiders, but that also had a sick one-handed catch by Brock Bowers. That's all I got out of that game.
Yeah, I think he broke some kind of rookie tight end record, didn't he not, in this game? Bowers is legit. The Raiders are horrible, and the best thing that happened to the Raiders over the weekend is that Deion Sanders was at an event with Antonio Pierce and told Antonio Pierce, you better be drafting both of my sons. Like, that's... If Deion's going to maneuver and manipulate this draft process to get Shador to the Raiders, even if you have to take Shiloh, that's the only glimmer of hope you have.
Let's go to an NFC West battle where the Seahawks gain some ground here. They win 30-18 over the Cardinals. Seahawks improved to get this 5-1 on the road. Not what you think about when you think of Seattle.
Yeah, the 12s, right? That's supposed to be one of the great home field advantages. Listen, Kyler Murray's throwing picks on back-to-back drives. That's not a great way to start the game, obviously. And Arizona has had some comeback wins, but Seattle is might be hitting the stride at their perfect time, Pro.
Yeah, they have a really interesting schedule. So they got Green Bay and Minnesota both come to Seattle. Feels like we're headed on collision course for Rams and Seahawks in Week 18 to determine this division winner. It's just really tightly packed in the NFC West. I know that the Cardinals have fallen off, but also I'm impressed the Seahawks ran the ball without Kenneth Walker yesterday. They look really good. They're good, but they're definitely that's a challenge. Green Bay and Minnesota coming to town. I think this is going to come down to the last play of the last week.
Oh, sorry. Zach Charbonnet, 134 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns this game. Former UCLA great. Speaking of LA, the Rams beat the Maggie's Bills 44-42, despite those 6 touchdowns from Josh Allen.
Yeah, beat up in the first half, but then Josh Allen was Superman in the second half and brought them back. And again, it's more bad clock management and bad play calling at the end of the game. I mean, you don't even have to play Madden. Anyone who's been watching football for any amount of time would know you cannot run a play there, even if it's a quarterback sneak, because of the clock. What's the matter with the coaching staff? You're going to blow it. You're going to blow it. And there's only so much Josh Allen can do to overcome these end-of-game gaffes. And it's enough. And this is what cracks the door open for Bill Belichick. It does. I don't know if the ownership would make a change, but you need a coach who's going to handle things better than McDermott has consistently handled the end of games. Rant over.
Yeah, on the other side of the ball, by the way, I love Nakua and Kupp, but the personal fouls and the mental mistakes in the back four were really alarming for the Rams. And actually, that's not the first time. You realize that these guys are all 22. The entire Rams defense, they're so talented, but they just made so many mistakes. They should have put that game away. But could you feel them sort of the Rams on defense? You could feel them getting tight or something. Something was happening to them where obviously they're up 2 touchdowns. They're letting guys 20 yards behind them on long routes. It was bizarre because I kind of want the Rams to be awesome because they were so entertaining. I just think that they're too young on defense, and I think this is not going the way they wanted to.
There's a big bounce back for the San Francisco 49ers, who improved to 6-7 after beating the Bears 38-24. 13. This game was pretty much over at halftime. They were up 24-0 at the end of the break.
Yeah, so is a 310 to 4 yard differential, is that big, Maggie? Because it feels like it's big. I'm
Felt
not
bigger,
reading.
to be honest.
I think it's too late for the Niners, but my takeaway from this game is, man, the Bears are awful, and so much for the new coach, the interim coach. It's time to go back to the drawing board. Just have a fresh start next year.
Yeah, well, it's Thomas Brown, right? He's the unfortunate loser here because you go in, you think that the 49ers are a bit vulnerable, and they just stomped on you like you weren't even playing the same sport. So that doesn't bode well for whoever's left of this current regime.
You got a nice little second half out of Caleb Williams, some plays, so that was encouraging.
So, and we'll get to Kyle Shanahan and stuff that he said about both Brock Purdy and himself and his future. We'll do that in a little bit later. And that's what you got, because we already talked about the Chiefs and the Chargers.
There you go.
Thank you, EJ. Thank you, Nico. I'm going to quickly go to Bill here. Bill is our 49er fan calling from California. Bill, what'd you think of your Niners yesterday?
Well, it's just like you guys talking about them right now. I mean, and you, Mag, you're a Bills fan, and you're complaining about McDermott making back. I've been living for, 8 years, 6 years, whatever, with Shanahan not being able to close out games and all that stuff. And, if you look at it, yesterday, if it wasn't for Williams making that fumble, the Bears were going in for another score, marching in. They have a horrible defensive coordinator. They switched, it's just, I'm sorry.
You're frustrated.
Yeah, it's frustration, but, he's no Bill Walsh. He's no George Seifert, and why they're trying to make him like he's a genius. I have yet to see the genius coach because he hasn't done anything. Yeah, he's gone and he won, but you know what? We have 4 games this season alone, and I get we're riddled with injuries. But before injuries, we have 4 games this season alone that we should have won that Kyle Shanahan, as a coach, did not know how to close out. And
what are you talking about? By missing field goals? What's that have to do with him? And by not covering kickoffs and punts? Like, that was all specialty.
Hey, Perloff, don't go there because you have no idea. Because before the field goals, there were things that could have happened that he didn't do. He shouldn't have tried for a field goal when it was 56 yards. And it was 3 yards for a first down. He should have went for the first down. I mean, he would have got. He knows nothing. And what do you know, Perloff? You're a Philadelphia Phillies fan anyway.
Did you think but Bill, it's serious. It's
personal shot.
Shanahan should have fired the special team coach early because they couldn't cover a punt or a kickoff.
He should have fired the special teams coach. He should have fired the defensive coordinator. All that stuff. The defense for the Niners this year has been poop. That's it. Garbage. They haven't done anything. You tell me anything that the last year's defense was a whole lot better than this year's defense, and they were all upset with the defensive coordinator last year and fired him right after the Super Bowl. It's just like if you're going to hire a defensive coordinator, get somebody who's at least better than the guy you thought was worse last year. They didn't do that. And they hired this guy out of frustration because they had nobody else to hire. And he has the same personnel, and the defense is poop. That's all it is. I mean,
I don't know, Bill, something about the way you're saying that is just funny. Thank you for the call, by the way. I'm sorry we're up against it. But definitely point made, got your point across. And I think to Bill's point, Perloff, like you can say, by missing field goals and the special teams and all that, but it is the head coach's responsibility. If the special teams is wrong, they've got to try to fix it, right?
Yeah, but I mean,
same with the defense.
It is an imperfection, but Shanahan clearly has nothing to. I mean, Shanahan coaches the offense.
That could be a criticism.
Does he even go into the defensive room? I'm not. Yeah, listen. He's not Bill Belichick necessarily, but I don't know. There seems to be a disconnect. Shanahan can't fix the defense, but Shanahan's kind of owned McVay, so we'll see on Thursday night. It's a huge game. I know the Rams beat him last year, but generally Shanahan always wins this game. So say what you want about the Niners. It's also, Bill said it too, it's injuries. I mean, how can you really judge this team?
So 2 big things that came out of this weekend for the 49ers that are notable. Number one, they did say the report is they are going to commit to Purdy long-term. So things can change between now and then, but it looks like Purdy's going to be the guy and they are going to pay him and it's going to be big money. Is it going to be the biggest contract? I don't know, but it's going to be big. And the second thing was Kyle Shanahan was asked, are you aware that there's an idea out there that people would trade for you, that a team would trade for you as a head coach, and he said, there's no place I'd rather be than in San Francisco. So,
yeah.
So that's that. Also, another interesting thing that came out late last night, it was Purdy and Diamador Lenore were apparently asked to speak to the team by Kyle Shanahan and gave some kind of impassioned rah-rah speech. And you know what? That's the way to execute it, because I have no idea what they said, but you give the rah-rah speech before you play the Bears. Because then you win. Purdy looks great. Everyone looks great. And it looks like the speech worked. That's like sports speeches 101. You don't give the speech before you play the best team in football. Then the speech might not work.
Hey, what happened? Is Garendo okay? What's the deal? Does anyone know? So he limped off too. Who's playing running back for this team?
I'm sure they'll cook up somebody.
Yeah, I mean, well, maybe, but it's interesting. Like, can they? Because they still are in it. I mean, like, we're not going to count them out. There is a season left to go here. It is funny how injured they are. But and again, say what you will, if Bosa doesn't play, then what are we doing here? It's a waste of time.
855-212-4227. All right, there you go. Got through a lot there. Our NFL in 60. Coming up, we got to do a little M&P 500. Whose stock is up, whose stock is down after a big weekend. Don't move.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
The M&P 500 on the Infinity Sports Network.
All right, welcome back, Maggie and Perloff Show. Time for Stock Up and Stock Down. Just a busy sports weekend. Maggie, why don't you get us started?
Yeah.
Whose stock is up?
Stock up, Dabo Swinney. Dabo Swinney wins the ACC. This is the 8th time in the last 10 years. He was clowned, mocked, made fun of, won't use the transfer portal. Meanwhile, he's sitting at the top of the heap. They have to go to Austin to play Texas in the first round, so it's going to be a handful. But everyone wanted Dabo Swinney run out of town, and meanwhile, here he is, another ACC title.
What does this title mean if they lose in their first round matchup?
What does it matter?
Because he used to be a national title winner. Of course it matters.
Well, if you're just going by who's in, who's out, this is an accomplishment this year for this Clemson team.
That's sad, because this used to be a team that could knock out Alabama and win the title. Okay, I'll go on the flip side of that one in the upcoming matchup. I have to do my stock up. Stock up. Oh, okay. My stock up, Sam Darnold. Not only is he's not like a system quarterback, because he runs like crazy right now. I think they should sign him. Give up on J.J. McCarthy, even make him like
Wait a minute, what? No.
I'm 100% honest.
Give up on J.J. McCarthy? They just drafted him in the first round.
Sorry, you're Josh Rosen. You're out. Sam Darnold's that quarterback. Like, there's no doubt in my mind. Because he's not just a system quarterback. He is definitely very mobile. He's perfect for them. Dude threw 5 touchdowns yesterday. His numbers are insane. Yeah, sorry, J.J., you're out.
Wow. But Josh Rosen played poorly and lost his job. And his team had the number 1 pick the next year. It's like a lot of things. You just think they're going to just give up on him?
Well, or keep him as a backup. Like, you can't let Sam Darnold go, right? You wouldn't try to re-sign him?
I think it depends what you're seeing from McCarthy. Now, remember, McCarthy did have that second surgery, to clean up the first surgery. So maybe that gives him a little wiggle room, but
I don't think it makes any difference whatsoever. Like, you're 11-2. And this reminds me a lot of the Case Keenum year, actually, when they were 13-3. But Darnold, he is overwhelming statistic-wise. Like, he's actually creeping in the top 5. He might get an MVP top 5. You can't let that go. You'd be crazy.
He's going to get a pretty big payday, don't you think?
Yeah, it better be from Minnesota. They're not paying that many guys. They're paying Jefferson. But, yes, I'm surprised you were surprised by that. Like, you going to let that guy out the door right now?
Man, all right. Stock up. Stock down. That's what we do here on the M&P 500. All right, if we were doing stock up, let's go stock down. Stock down, New York Yankees. You lose out on the Juan Soto sweepstakes to the Mets. Oh, the indignity. Not just losing out to him, but losing out to the Mets. And I say that as a Mets fan. How dare you? And you are one of the most valuable franchises in all of professional sports. To lose out to another team over money for Juan Soto, who clearly made a difference to their team, I think it's just unforgivable. So stock down, New York Yankees.
Again, I'm not sure I totally agree with that, but I'll do my stock down. Quinn Ewers just doesn't look right. I'm sorry. Like, he throws that one little slant very well, but other than that, he feels very non-threatening for Texas right now. I would have gone Arch earlier in the season because I'm not sure Quinn Ewers is totally healthy either. but he makes me nervous. Like, I feel like when everyone's predicting this college football playoff, nobody's going with Texas anymore, and I think that's because of Ewers. I think they have talent everywhere else, and I think Sark is obviously a great play caller. I just don't trust this guy right now. I would go to Arch at some point soon.
Can I give you one more stock up?
Sure.
This is just kind of surprising to me, but good for her. Did you know that Kylie Kelsey, the wife of Jason, her podcast is now #1 in the U.S. over Joe Rogan? Wait. What? How?
Is that
what do they even talk about? I don't.
Is that a new podcast bump?
Oh,
like you get the
maybe.
most?
Maybe.
Because like whenever a new podcast comes out, it immediately debuts. It's like top 3 and then disappears.
Okay, I've got another stock.
I don't know. Well, go ahead.
I've got another stock down for you.
But can I tell my other stock up?
Oh, I'm sorry. Go
Because
ahead.
I know EJ loves this guy. Can we talk about Cam Scattaboo on Arizona State?
Yes.
Oh my God, am I a gigantic Arizona State fan? And is the other guy coming back? Their other good player? They have 2 good players. Jordan Tyson.
Yeah. I think they hope he come back. But.
Yeah. I don't know anything about Arizona State football. That's where Plummer went, right? That's all I can tell you about. Like they are
Jake Plummer. Yeah.
They're definitely a team that is easy to back in this college football playoff. They have a bye, so we won't see him for a while. But Cam Scattaboo was just running rampant over Iowa State.
He is really fun to watch. More stock up, stock down. Maggie and Perloff. Stock down. Sean McDermott. Terrible end of the game clock management spoils an all-time day from Josh Allen. Stop me if you've heard that before, Bills fans. And I think a lot of people happen to be watching that game because
Can't you acknowledge the Rams playing an outstanding game? Like, can it be that maybe the Rams just beat the Bills because Puka Nakua's arms went up in the midair and caught the ball, and then Cooper Kupp was tough as nails, and they have a good offensive line and run game? Like, can't you just have the Bills just be beat and not blame anybody?
I would have thought that way if they hadn't erased a 17-point deficit basically in the fourth quarter.
Give them credit for that.
No. You don't get a participation trophy credit for making it close when you are a supposed Super Bowl contender. And actually, they were the Super Bowl favorite going into that game. Yeah. So no partial credit. And can I do a stock up on the hilarious, and I think he meant it to be funny, Malik Neighbors from Nico and Bogusch's New York Giants, who when a fan flies a plane over the stadium calling for the owner to fix this dumpster fire, Malik Neighbors, their first round draft choices, asked about it and just said simply, I didn't pay for the plane. Like anyone thought he did. It would have been baller if he did, but that would have been silly. So there you go. Did we get it all? I think so. Oh, Kadarius Toney. 2 snaps in the fourth quarter, both on special teams. Fair catch flag for taunting and a muff punt, and the Steelers recovered. Kadarius Toney on the Browns is like too much to overcome. It's like it's already the Browns, and then you add Kadarius Toney into the mix. It's an overwhelming sense of bad karma. All right, I think that's it. Bogusch has headlines for us. What's up, folks?
Guys, good morning. These headlines are sponsored by PXG Golf for high-quality, high-performance golf clubs, apparel that delivers style and comfort, premium golf balls, award-winning gloves, and more. Make it a PXG holiday for the golfer in your life. Find the PXG store near you at pxg.com. It starts at $765 million. Another $40 million can get tacked on through an opt-out clause. So the Mets might pay Juan Soto $805 million over the next 15 seasons. Here on day one, without final confirmation, it is the richest deal in pro sports history. And oh, by the way, Mets single-game tickets go on sale this morning. At least one outlet says those Yankees were in the lead for Soto deep into yesterday, but then Mets owner Steve Cohen came in and closed. We're told the last Yankee offer was just $760 million over 16 years. Baseball's
Cheapskates is what they are.
Baseball's also celebrating Dick Allen and Dave Parker being elected to the Hall of Fame by a Veterans Committee. Both were MVPs. Parker won 2 batting titles. Allen has a better career OPS plus than Hank Aaron and Willie Mays.
And we're both caught smoking in the dugout, too. famously.
Again, this is the use of caught. I think you're allowed to smoke in the dugout.
Right.
They just were seen smoking in the dugout.
Yeah, isn't one of them's on the Sports Illustrated cover smoking?
I think that's Dick Allen.
Yeah, it's Dick Allen. Dave Parker famously was smoking all the time.
Let me find that Sports Illustrated cover
Yeah.
while Bogusch keeps
I mean,
going.
can you imagine somebody and also obviously Len Dawson in the Super Bowl? Can you imagine a guy lighting up a cigarette in a dugout now?
Jim Leland was doing it when the Tigers went to the World Series.
Right. He got caught because he wasn't allowed to be doing it.
It'd be funny if Major League Baseball was like, listen, no smokeless tobacco. We don't want it to be a bad influence on the kids. But yeah, you can just rip a bone. Rogue, just go to town with those, whatever he's smoking. Marlboros? I don't know.
Yeah, Dick Allen is on the cover of Sports Illustrated juggling 2 baseballs while a cigarette is dangling from his lips.
That's talent.
Yeah, no, sports
It's
was
Wednesday.
definitely way cooler than.
It was just allowed.
Yeah.
Smoking on airplanes remains the most inexplicable thing we've done as humans. I cannot fathom that.
I know. We didn't live through it,
No.
so we're lucky in that sense. But
Nico, airplanes, you've been on one, right? Now, there's all these rules. There used to be not rules.
That doesn't even
You can do
seem
whatever you
super
want.
safe, by the way.
I know. For 1,000 reasons, it
Yeah.
seems like that would have been a first day rule. Like, we probably shouldn't light mini fires on this plane. But they're like, no, let's do it.
also just the smoke.
Right.
Like, wouldn't it just been hazy in there? Maybe the filtration system was good. Or imagine taking a flight, like a long one.
No, the
I gotta go to
filtration system was not good. They didn't have filtration systems in the
You
70s.
couldn't see row 8 from row 15.
You're like flying to Shanghai or something. Like, wow, I'm going to be on this flight for 24 hours. I've got no TV. Just how? I can't make a flight from St. Louis to New York without a TV. I'm like, oh.
Hello, flight attendant. Can I just get that oxygen mask? Can I just bring it down now? I know we're not going down. Just give it to me right now. The guy next to me is just.
He's like, got any
going
parachutes around here so I can jump out of the plane? Yeah, I don't know how people did that. Have you ever been in a plane where it's recent, but they have the ashtrays on the side of the arm of the seat?
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah.
how old is this airplane? Oh, no.
So my friend is a flight attendant, and we were randomly talking about this the other day, and she said, now, not the ones in the seat. I haven't seen those in forever, but there are ashtrays on planes. And that's on the list of no fly if those things aren't there, because the thought is if somebody's a dope and lights a cigarette, you need a place at the flight attendant to put it out. So there are still ashtrays randomly in planes as like an ultimate safety precaution.
Oh, that makes me feel a lot better.
Yeah.
'Cause I've seen them before. And I'm like, oh my gosh, was this plane built in 1952? What's going on?
They probably shouldn't still be in the armrest. That's old school. But like randomly, like in the work areas, and I think maybe even in the bathroom, sometimes there are ashtrays that have to be.
Yeah.
That's part of the safety check before you can leave.
You can't vape on a plane, right?
Can't do any of those things.
Yeah, that's good.
The Chiefs won again last night by the skin of their teeth, up 13-0, down 17-16, then winning 19-17 over the Chargers on Sunday Night Football. KC kept the ball for the final 4.5 minutes, setting up Matthew Wright's game-ending 31-yard field goal. LA head coach Jim Harbaugh responding only how he can.
Reminded of Sir Andrew Barton. Fight on, my men, Sir Andrew said. I'm a little wounded but not slain. I'll lay down and bleed a while, and we'll rise and fight again.
Now, Maggie, our...
I was just thinking that.
Let that one breathe. Our good friend Nick Costos says that Harbaugh stole that from Marv Levy. Can you confirm or deny that?
That probably sounds right. Marv
Okay.
was really big into the battle stuff. It's history
Might
buff.
have been there. He was one of the soldiers that Andrew Barton was talking to.
Marv was definitely alive when you could smoke on airplanes. That's for sure.
And he definitely was smoking.
He
on
was like an
airplanes.
adult. Bless
Marv
Marv
Levy's
Levy.
one of those people that looks like he was just born 65 years old.
I think his hair went white when he was like in his 30s. But man, bless Marv Levy. Is he 101 or 100? Something like that. Man, he's the best. I also believe that he did coin the phrase, when you start listening to the fans, you'll be sitting with them. People say that a lot. I do think that can be linked back all the way to Marv.
99 years old, Marv Levy.
When's his birthday?
It does not even say here, which is kind of scary.
He doesn't know.
It was the Gregorian calendar when he was
August 3rd.
Spring of...
Yeah, August 3rd, 1925.
circa. Wow. All right, we should send him something this year.
Maybe he'll live to see the Bills win a Super Bowl.
I only can pray.
The Chiefs, by the way, they're 12-1 now after this win. They've won 15 straight one-score games. They are AFC West champs for the 9th year in a row. Now, something the Jets are still interesting. Others are Garrett Wilson, the Jets receiver, who can't believe they lost another game despite leading in the fourth quarter.
Losing period sucks, and
when you're up in the fourth quarter, all of a sudden it starts to feel like you have a losing problem. It's like you have like a gene or something.
He said a curse word. The Jets.
Wow, is he new around here? It's the Jets. Of course they have some kind of loser gene.
They had a 23-15 lead through 3 in Miami yesterday afternoon. They retook a 26-23 edge in the fourth and allowed a tying field goal with 7 seconds left. Then Tua's 10-yard TD to Jonnu Smith in overtime. So the Dolphins win 32-26, keeping alive their slim playoff chances. The Jets, meanwhile, officially eliminated from contention. Their last playoff appearance remains 2014.
You know what the precedent's got to be to play at a place like Ohio State, where if you lose one game, it's like a disaster and everyone gets fired, and then go to the Jets.
Yeah.
Like that's got to be the biggest whiplash ever, where there are still those expectations because Aaron Rodgers shows up, but then you lose every game. It's awful. Like I don't envy Garrett Wilson at all. He sounds depressed, and he probably is, because of this situation being such a disaster.
Still not as bad as losing to Michigan, though.
He don't sound like it. You heard that quote? He's like, it's in our DNA.
Yeah, I mean, I guess at least he's rich. Rich Cimini tweeted this, and I thought it was good. 14 straight years out of the playoffs in the free agency era, and now with an extra wild card, is just absurd.
You can't make it up. It's every year we come and do the same thing.
You nailed it this year, though. You knew that they were going to be bad.
No, I thought they were going to be really good. And then once it got bad, I jumped off the bandwagon very fast.
Right. Still nailed it.
Yeah, close enough.
Nailed it. Getting on the bandwagon now, oddly.
This is buying the stock when it's low. Smart. Zag.
In the San Antonio Spurs 121-116 home win over the Pelicans last night, Chris Paul passed Jason Kidd for number 2 on the all-time assist list.
It was really cool. The guys, they gave me a memorable gift, not only a win, but a ball and a big picture with all the teams that I done played with.
CP3 had 10 helpers last night, now 12,099 for his career. Victor Wembanyama scoring 25 after missing 2 games with lower back soreness. In college hoops yesterday, number 1, Kansas on the men's side losing its second straight, 76-67 at Missouri. Number 25, UConn winning at Texas, 76-65. Alex Caravan, 21 points, 11 rebounds after missing 2 games with a concussion. Guys, back to you.
We have something from Deion Sanders that we have to get to right away, because there is a discrepancy. There is some kind of factual error that we have to address right now. We're going to do it after the break. Stay with us.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Daily.
Do you believe that?
Deion.
You believe that?
All right, checking in with Deion Sanders. No, Colorado did not make the 12-team college football playoff, but they were pretty close. They were pretty close. Okay, here is a video that's circulating of Deion Sanders and Antonio Pierce speaking at an event in Las Vegas. And on social media, it's being circulated as if this happened recently. Here's what it sounded like.
Now I just need you to do one thing. I need you to draft those Sanders boys next year.
Okay, now that was Deion again with Antonio Pierce when Pierce is obviously the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, Deion Sanders tweeting 5 minutes ago, to whom it may concern, the video that's being played of me and Coach Pierce is from the Super Bowl last year. God bless and have a phenomenal day. We are #dad/Coach Prime. My question is, okay, Deion wants to set the record straight. This is a year ago. But this makes more sense now than ever. The Raiders, if the draft was today, have the #1 overall pick.
And they did not take a quarterback last year, which opens the spot for a quarterback this year.
I don't understand. Like, Deion's kind of making it seem like the media is being irresponsible here by assuming this is recent, but the material part of it doesn't change.
Well, I just think that maybe he's looking at the Raiders and saying, like, I don't want my kids there because the team is so bad. And, like, remember, if it was the last year's Super Bowl, they still had Devontae Adams. Like, I don't know. There was a little hope that maybe they wouldn't be this big of a train wreck. Now, I'd be surprised if Antonio Pierce is the coach next year, right? Like,
well, it depends. I mean, how big of an influence is Tom Brady going to have?
Yeah.
There could be better days ahead. No disrespect to Antonio Pierce. The team's 2-11.
Maybe Deion doesn't want to get cornered into them if they have the #1 pick. So he's keeping his options open because it does feel like Deion wants to intervene here. Intervene in like where he's taken.
The question is for who and for what? Like to steer Shador where? Because
obviously not the Raiders. You want no part of that.
Or do you? I mean, Tom Brady's a huge mentor of Shador, and Brady's now a part owner of the Raiders. So maybe Vegas is exactly where they want to be. You would rather go there than the New York Giants?
I think that Vegas is worse. I mean, they haven't. When's the last time they were a legit threat? Giants is right there, but the Giants at least have neighbors. I don't know. It's pretty bad. I don't know where he's going to steer the kid. Maybe the Raiders are not going to win in this setup. They're not going anywhere.
Okay, but you said that they don't have Devontae Adams. They do have Brock Bowers. I know he's a tight end and he's not a wide receiver, but he's pretty damn good. Listen, the thing for the Raiders is you've got to hit on quarterback first and foremost. And I'm not trying to say wide receivers are a dime a dozen, but I feel like I have a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot more wiggle room to find a great wide receiver just because there's so many more of them.
I feel like you're set up for massive failure in Vegas.
But you don't even know who the coach would be.
Yeah, no. Well, I think Deion doesn't know who the coach is going to be either. So he's got to sort of hold his cards close to his vest because he's not going to commit to the Raiders not knowing what's going on. I mean, who's the guy? I mean, it is there are a lot of jokes. Sincere McCormick was their main playmaker yesterday. Sincere McCormick. Who the heck is that guy?
I don't know.
He won a lot of fantasy leagues, but he is generally as unknown as you get. And Brock Bowers, he's awesome, but he is a tight end. I mean, broke the rookie record, right? He beat Sam Laporta's record from last year. Laporta's like option 5 in Detroit right now.
Okay, but see, I'm surprised that you wouldn't see the forest through the trees here. You can't really pick apart a Raiders loss in the middle of a meaningless season. They're trying to go for the number 1 overall pick, and they're succeeding at that. Air quotes.
I don't think they're trying to go for the number 1 overall pick.
Why wouldn't they be? They're gonna be squaring off against the New York Giants to try to get to the bottom here.
No, I think they're that bad. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think there's any effort.
Oh.
Yeah. And also, it's obviously the organizational issues. Mark Davis is the owner.
Okay, but
these problems are much deeper than this roster.
I feel you there, but I ask you, who else picking in the top, let's go 7, do you feel like has this awesome front office? The Giants do not get the benefit of the doubt. New England already has a quarterback. Carolina might be just as bad. Jacksonville probably doesn't need a quarterback. Hopefully Trevor Lawrence is fine. Tennessee, have they shown they're a great front office? The Jets? Are you crazy? You want Shador to go to Cleveland and get involved in that mess? The Raiders are looking awesome compared to some of these other situations.
Yeah, Tennessee seems interesting for sure. Cleveland is probably viewed differently by Deion than you guys. If they could get some of that Watson money out of there, which is probably hard to do. I think the Giants is probably a better spot than the Raiders. The Raiders are stuck behind.
That's just on history then.
Yeah, but the Raiders
Giants have been terrible.
Yeah, but the Raiders are stuck behind Mahomes, Jim Harbaugh, and Sean Payton now. I'm not sure that that's the place to go. It seems like a real tough job there.
I don't know. The most interesting thing that happened at the Giants game yesterday is some woman showed up and flashed everybody. That's when you know things like that's the level you need to entertain people because the football's been that bad.
I mean, both cities are good. I think Vegas works for Deion. I think New York could work for Deion too. Carolina, unless they say, Deion, you're the coach, you're the general manager, like they got to hand over the keys to the city to Shador. I don't know. I mean, listen, we do not know exactly the calculus here. What if he does a Kobe and tries to push him down to 12 or 13 or 14? That'd be very hard to do in the NFL.
A little harder, I think. A little harder than basketball.
Obviously, can't get him to Dallas because they paid all that money to Dak Prescott. That's a shame. That would have been a good fit.
We have a couple poll questions to update you on. Which is the bigger issue you have with the college football playoff? Alabama missing the field or Oregon's college football playoff title path? 84% saying Oregon. Thank you, everybody. Oregon being the number 1 overall seed, and they get basically the hardest second-round matchup on paper, the winner of Ohio State, Tennessee. Congrats.
Nobody has a problem with Alabama not making it, but that doesn't mean that you think the 12 teams are the best 12 teams in the country. There's clearly something a little odd here. Will you at least admit that, Maggie?
Yeah, I think the format is not good, but I feel for Oregon because you run the table, you have the number 1 overall seed. Congratulations. You got to play 2 of the best in the best conferences that we had. Meanwhile, Penn State over here is, looking a lot more palatable to have a home game against SMU, no disrespect, and then the next round would be Boise.
I think Oregon's got to root for Tennessee. I think that is the clear, better matchup.
Other poll question, are the Jets still interesting right now? 93% say no. A little lopsided. The future of Aaron Rodgers, though, might be interesting. If he puts together a few more 300-yard games, could be a market out there for him.
Yeah, market out there. He's definitely a New York Jet next year.
Oh, man. I don't know if EJ's going to survive.
What's the Jets' other option? Are they going to re-sign Darnold?
Anything else?
I think the Darnold ship has sailed. Thank you, EJ Stewart. Thank you, Nico Scarlatos. And so glad you're feeling well and feeling better. Hi to your dad. Bogusch, Kaplan, the Weedos, the coffee drinkers, and Ralph Russo. Thank you.
You're in a 5-minute break.